Okay, good. Not yet.
I just
now
went
we are.
live.
Well, I can't.
So
Then I'm not going to say what I was about to say. Then
Damn.
Okay. I
Yeah,
usually
no.
try to, we'll
He
go
was
live
going to
when nobody's
accuse
paying
me
attention.
of saying some inappropriate things.
I don't have to accuse you of it. You'll just do it. Give it a few minutes.
There was a journey that had between 4 people, and there was some shit that was said in that truck that will never leave that truck. Bobby
You're
be
a
knowing.
horrible person, Andrew.
Bobby be knowing what I'm talking about. So Drew,
Less than a week.
you got some of it, but I don't know.
Always first.
That was
Yes.
also when
Less than a week.
when we were at a gas station and Bobby bought a bang. It was a unicorn piss
Anderson.
bang.
Do not let Bobby get that caffeine, bro.
Dude, it's this size, right? He's got
No,
a
I got the
bang.
little one. It was the little one.
It's like it was literally there was a unicorn on it, and it was like unicorn piss bang. And Bobby's like, that looks good, and he buys it.
No,
And we're sitting in the back of the truck.
Philip posted a picture
Philip
few days before in the B2 group and was like, "These are delicious," and I was like, "Really?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, like the pretty colors." I like unicorns.
So he buys it, and he probably drank this much out of it.
Between a quarter and a third of it.
And he's over there, and he's like kind of rocking back and forth. He's like,
I'm like,
it's kind of warm in here.
Hey, can we get the AC? I can't roll the windows down because it was so smoky. But I was like, you got to crank up the AC in here, man. I'm gonna hurl. I was like, this thing is.
He's tapping John on the shoulder. He's like, John, can you move your big burly arm, like, because he's blocking the air conditioner. And dude, he had jitters.
John drive all. With his arm out of the way so the air
like
conditioner could blow by his big ass shoulder.
Speaking of John, I messaged him like 20 minutes ago. He is suffering currently. I don't know if you talked to him today.
In Hawaii.
He's in Hawaii unloading a container in the rain.
He got there yesterday.
Oh shit!
Yeah. If he got there yesterday, then he got drunk last night.
No, then he's extra suffering. So this is double. I feel less bad all of a sudden.
Yeah,
if he's hanging out with Will and his wife, they probably got super wasted.
No, he said, what did he say? They got out there at 5 a.m. and they're still going.
Oh, they're just unloading the container in the rain. Yeah.
And then,
let me tell you something. We went there to Hawaii. I went with him and Johnny, and it rained 100% of the time we were there.
Oh, that sucks.
We had a good time, though.
Yeah, he had sent me a picture of like the ground or like boxes. I was like, that looks like it's wet outside. I was like, it doesn't rain in Reno.
Oh, it rains in Reno.
Hawaii.
Yeah, and then he's like, I'm in Hawaii unloading this stuff in 90-degree weather. I'm like, oh, and it's 100% humidity. You are suffering currently.
Yeah.
I said, make sure to hydrate, my guy. I don't need you to die before next week.
Dude, I couldn't imagine having to go to Hawaii a week before SEMA.
And having to work the entire time.
Yeah.
He has like
have you hung out with John
in the next week.
It's like,
I was like, have you spent any time with John?
It's this like combination of party, work, party, working, working, and you're like, I'm a little too old for this. I think I don't know. Like
we did my truck, right? So there was this like 2 week. It was like 2.5 or 3 weeks that I was gonna come down and we were gonna do my truck.
All Michaels, Rhonda, Dayton. I'm paying attention, guys. I got you, Chris. What's up? Facebook user.
So we were gonna do the truck, and so I'm just staying with John, and I'm just mirroring John, and it's like, you know, people give that like must be life, or you know, must be nice to live John's life, blah blah blah. And I'm not kidding, dude. We're up at 4 o'clock, okay, 4 a.m. Like burn down to the shop, print out orders, and like it was like all day. Then like we'd leave the shop by like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and it's like go get the kids, and then go do all this stuff, and do all the family stuff, and go to dinner, and then go do drinks, and it's like 10:30, and it's like, dude, all right, I'm dead. Fall asleep. Literally like a moment has passed, and you're like, okay, it's 4 o'clock again. Like, and John does that every day. Like, he is the busiest person that I know. Like, I needed a vacation away from John. Like, I work, but John is the hardest working individual.
I basically mirrored that for the last 2 weeks with Price's Tahoe being here. I don't know how people do it for more than a couple of weeks. I was not okay when I got home Sunday night.
You know what? And Bobby and I were talking about this the other day. And when you own a small business, I really think like it becomes so much more than a job. It's really like a lifestyle. You either live it or you don't. Like, you're never gonna make it if you don't live it. Like, if you just treat it like your 9 to 5, like it just becomes your lifestyle, and you just,
I got mine pretty dialed in, working till midnight usually, waking up at 10. And that's just how it worked for me, because everyone kind of goes to bed at 9 or 10, and I get a bunch of work done in late hours. But having the Tahoe here and having to get it done, I had to increase that. Had to have more time. Just had to. And I don't know how people do it, like John, and even Price, and all the people who have like 4-hour sleep windows constantly. Like that's more than I can handle.
Shit, Drew, when you were here, I ended up with that migraine and at the hospital and been barfing my guts out. And I left the hospital and came to the shop.
Yep, you did. You came straight to the shop. I was like, bro,
got right to work, and we worked into the evening, and it was like, nah, we got to do the shit. The stuff has to get done. I was sick and miserable. My head was pounding, but I was better enough. And I was like, well, I'm either going to stress my face off going home, or I'm going to get this work done and die here.
I'd
rather my work be done when I die than me being stressed out about not doing work and dying. So
I get people telling me, bro, you need more rest. Then who's going to do this work?
You can be sick at home, or you can be sick at work.
I'll rest when we go home later. I'm not going to sleep very well in my bedroom when it's fucking bright and sunny outside, and there's a team of people working at my shop. So
I had we ended up staying pretty late at Kicker Saturday night, and woke up. Well, I drove from where I dropped Price's Tahoe off to Stillwater. Got into Stillwater like 4 o'clock in the morning. Back up at 7 or 8, and was there till 11:30 at night. Slept in a little bit Sunday and drove all the way home. One shot.
Yeah,
but I slept like a baby.
Yeah, my last week's been insane as well. Working and then just explore. Like, literally, I should be working on the Explorer right now and not doing this, but it's okay because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have it playing by tomorrow. I took the day off tomorrow.
Super stoked.
Monday, I tried windshield. I get your windshield acrylic first thing tomorrow morning. Steve.
Hell yeah.
I get the acrylic for your windshield tomorrow morning, and then I have the acrylic for your speaker rings, Andrew, for tomorrow morning.
I was going to say, if Easton gets those files over to you.
What you need? You need some acrylic for your fucking build that's going to SEMA? No? All right,
cool. We're all going to get to SEMA, and we're like, hi, guys. Like, we're all dead. Like, do this last 3 weeks.
The Raiden leaves tomorrow. So I'm like, once tomorrow comes, I'm like, okay, I'll see you at SEMA. Like,
and then, it's gonna be it's coming to my house, right?
Yeah,
Friday.
Coming to your house. Yes, sir. I don't know.
Is that the Tiger? Is that the Tiger?
Tiger? No, the Raiden. Tiger is bringing the bloodbath to you.
Okay, I did talk to them, and I told them if they couldn't tell me whether they're bringing it Thursday or Friday, but I told them whatever day you bring it, just bring it after 5 p.m. So,
okay.
Somebody asked me, they said, you know what, are you worried about having the bourbon in Vegas? And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, if somebody stole it, I feel like that would be best case scenario. Like, you could just take the trailer too, like just have it. I don't have to take it back with me.
Don't bring it back.
Yeah. Just take the whole thing. I don't want you to take the equipment out of it. Just take the whole thing. You can have it.
Well, my Explorer is going with no locks on any doors.
Or just light it on fire.
Just is what it is.
Just destroy
it. It does have fire insurance. It's actually specifically written into the policy that if it catches on fire due to the lithium batteries that are in it, it is covered under my insurance policy. Like,
nice.
I mean, do you have that much equipment into it? I mean, Easton and I calculated it out one day, and it was like just in like wire and connectors and fuses and fuse blocks, it's like $12,000 or $13,000 retail. Like, and that's just wire and fuse blocks. Like,
yeah, you guys have a lot of wire.
That's crazy.
a lot of wire in that shit,
dude. Like, they're not.
I mean, what are those subwoofers retail for?
Those $1,400.
$1,400, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and there's 12 of them. Yeah. I don't know the amount of work that's gone into it, and there's certain things like the SMD fuse block in the back is like, it has no value because it's the only one that was ever made, and like my friend Steve made it for me for our build. You know, like that.
Yeah, so like it's worth more than just whatever the material cost is.
Right.
Time.
You
Yeah.
know,
or if you were to like, oh, how many spots is it? And you're like, okay, cool. Well, however many 8 spots make that. No, it's not.
I think
it's
Steve
5
said
times that, right, or something.
Well, he was saying if he would have made it, well, that's all copper too. He said it'd be like $2,500. Like if he were to make it and sell it to somebody,
the
it'd probably be
model of that. If he was producing it, like if John Raby was like, hey Steve, get me 10 of those. I need to have them in stock. Then
Steve would probably be like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, you're good. Things have more value than whatever that costs. Like whenever Bobby builds the pillars and doors for the Tahoe for this build, it's whatever they cost. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like the doors on the Tahoe, the one they're on there now, will probably never be sold just because they were Steven's second set of doors, and just they mean a lot to me beyond just what the material of the door is.
Yeah, mount those things on the wall in your garage with speakers in them.
Exactly.
And have them
Andrew, before we get too far away from what insurance do you use to cover that demo?
I go through Farmers. So I have a local agent here in Minnesota, and I've found that Farmers Insurance, like they'll insure everything, and they're actually like a AAA insurance company. So I sat down with my insurance agent, and like I don't play around when it comes to insurance. Like the business is insured, like the vehicles are insured, the trailers are insured. So like what's sitting out there right now is the truck is insured, the trailer that the Bourbon is sitting on has its own insurance policy, and then the Suburban itself has its own insurance policy. So like I would be covered under any circumstance. And I just sat down and we went through, value. I think the Suburban is 80,000, 75 or 80,000 of coverage on it. And then I went through the specifics for coverage. I said, well, I don't want just a general policy. I said, I want, because it's not an automotive policy. Because generally an automotive policy, like if it's parked in your garage, like then your homeowner's insurance is supposed to cover your vehicle if it catches on fire. But if you don't have accurate or you don't have adequate coverage, then like the vehicle policy kicks in. And there was all of these like little things, and my agent really spelled it out, and we just sat down and I made sure that this is what I do with the vehicle, this is what I wanted insured for, yada yada yada. And I did it all through my agent through Farmers Insurance, and it's really not that expensive. I mean, $80,000 of it's like kind of like a general liability insurance. I mean, it's cheap. It's like under $100 a month. Like,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of us that have these big demo builds need to kind of learn from that and insure our vehicles. I insured mine, but I need to have it reevaluated because I insured it for like $30,000, and once the build's done, obviously it's more. But there's some under $100 a month that'll cover the vehicle. Like it's necessary.
That's totally worth it. I mean, just because, like, shit. John had that stupid fucking Colorado they could never make run right outside of Sky High, and those guys fucking vandalized it and stole some subs out of it. And had he had some coverage on there, it would have been like, all right, cool.
That sucks,
that sucks ass, but here we are,
Let me hit some comments real quick. The kicker Bronco will not be at the showdown. So leaving SEMA, going back to kicker.
Yes, I've already talked to them about that too, and just not going to happen. So if you want to see it, you got to come to SEMA. I don't know if it's going to be playing in the booth at all. Maybe they'll turn it up once or twice, but I don't know. Drew, you might know more about that.
They're probably not going to play it.
That sucks.
They might play the doors because we just had a very limited amount of time to get things going. I got a very quick base tune on the doors, and I was very impressed about those square mids. I was actually pretty shocked.
What's the frequency range on them, Drew?
I
think it's like 60 to.
I have a frequency response graph somewhere from I pulled it from in the vehicle.
What's the mounting depth? That's my question.
They didn't look that deep.
Yeah, they're on the
website, but in the door, I want to say I saw like 70 to 5K was pretty clean until like the roll off started.
They do sound good. I heard them in the testing room.
We're gonna do some additional. We're gonna do some more SQ type stuff behind them to help dissipate the back wave, just because so the mids are flat in the door. And normally there's a big concave in doors to kind of help dissipate a wave. Well, the Bronco door is flat, and then there's a 1/4-inch piece of plate panel bonded to the door, so it's a perfectly flat surface behind the mids. So I think there's a back wave thing going on, causing a little null in the doors. So we're going to do some black hole tiles to eat up that back wave a little bit.
Nice.
Do you know when you're young and you do something wrong and your parents are like, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed. That's how Bobby's going to be here real quick. So
and we were talking earlier,
rating,
and we were talking. He was telling me how he's lost 30 pounds in the last couple of years, and I was like, dude, if you stop drinking soda, that's like a free 10%. If you drink a soda a day, you would lose 10% of your fucking fat ass.
Andrew, I'm with you,
30
bro.
to 60 days.
I'm with you, bro.
Well, I'll tell you,
I
Andrew,
get this for free, man. I'm like, dude, I wish I had something easy to abandon that is like a massive sugar thing.
I mean, the subject of our conversations tonight should be like my broken arm that you waylaid the last time I saw you. So
okay,
FYI.
I'll tell the story.
Don't touch Bobby. He's not a touchable person. He doesn't like being touched.
He grabbed my arm and wasn't letting go.
My arm.
He doesn't want to be touched unless he wants to be touched.
I put my knee on his forearm and pulled my arm away, and he tried to not let go. And I probably did fracture a bone in his arm a little bit.
Dude, it is bad.
I didn't even push very hard. You're supposed to let go. I was doing a grip break, stupid.
Well, you're a jiu-jitsu guy, dude.
Oh.
Dude, Bobby does it every time I see him. He does something. He chops me in the neck, or he puts me some pressure point. I'm like, why did you try to attack me? Dude,
I don't attack you. You attacked me. You came up all coming at me, and I'm all, what the fuck are you doing?
I was trying to give you a hug. Hey, Bobby. You attacked me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fuck around. I'm going to give you a hug.
Well.
Fuck that big, strong, fucking fat guy. Give me a fucking bear hug. No. Good.
Jeez.
Well, long story short, don't touch Bobby because he's not a touchable, approachable person.
Oh yeah, I'm not a touchable, approachable person.
Unless he's had.
You know what I was telling? I was telling a funny story about. I think it was last year at SEMA. What was the guy from Audio Control? I don't think he's working there anymore.
Steve?
He's super cool.
Justin or Jason? Jason?
No,
I know.
Chris.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Chris.
Were you with
Chris,
me?
Chris,
yeah, no,
Chris.
Yes, Chris.
And we're walking. I was pretty buzzed. It was pretty late, and we're walking through like this corridor that went over the street, I think, to another place or something. And Chris snuck up behind me, and we had no idea he was anywhere near us. He saw us walking and chased us down. And he grabbed my ass cheeks from behind and was lifting me in the air, spreading my cheeks. And I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like, holy shit, bro. You're just going to rip my cheeks apart like that? And, he got a little bit, no, I probably shouldn't have done that. He was like, no, it's okay. I get it. It was fucking hysterical. And it was all awkward, but it was super fucking funny. And I was like, I mean, if there was anybody that would be should be okay with that level of inappropriateness, or maybe to be like, that might have been a little too much, it would be me, right? Where some people might flip out and, fucking call 911 or some wild shit, but it was so fucking funny. My wife was like, that was so funny. you were like, what's happening to me?
And
he had me in the air a little bit, he's pulling the cheeks apart. I had pants on, but man, holy shit, it was so funny too. Funny.
So
that's really funny, Michael Moore. He turns it on. He's like, and then he ripped my butt cheeks apart. Never mind. This isn't
what's amazing is that Bobby can go from. Bobby goes from this to this and in varying situations. He could be the nicest person you've ever met. He's very good at negotiating. We were in a hotel room in Oregon at the most ratchet hotel that you can imagine. It was the worst of the worst, and it was super hot outside. And I had the fan on and I had the air conditioner on because I'm from Minnesota where it's nice and cold, and Bobby's from Mordor where it's 1,000 degrees. And he looks over at me and he's like, Andrew, do you think that we could turn the fan off? It was absolutely the best thing that I've That hotel room was a lot, Bobby.
That was a pretty weird hotel room.
It was
the strangest hotel room I've ever been. It was like, okay, imagine 2 like twin size beds, right? Yeah. And they're against each wall of the hotel room, right? And there's 3 feet between the 2 of them, or less. Maximum 3 feet between those 2. And then the rest of the hotel room is like 45, 50 feet long.
Not kidding.
I swear to God, I'm like, this is so weird. We walked in and we're all, is this the wrong room? Is this like some utility room? Are we in the break room or something? It had like a couch and a TV, but there's like, and you got to like walk between them to like go to the bathroom. It was, and then I go and I take a shower, and I have like pretty. So I'm allergic to certain things. I'm allergic to grass really bad, and I've had skin rashes and issues from hotel room soap. So I can't use hotel room soap, and so I don't touch that shit at all. Like I don't even want to touch the outside of the little paper fucking foldy package. So I don't even look at the fucking bars of soap. I don't touch that shit. I wash without fucking soap. I use the shampoo. I get out of the fucking shower. I dry off. I go in. Andrew goes in. He comes out and he's like a little bit awkward. And he's like, dude, like, what the fuck? Shave your balls. You made that bar of soap has got all kinds of hair and shit. And I'm all, I don't use that.
I didn't use.
Oh god, dude, he dead ass. I was like,
he's all, and I'm all, did you touch that shit? He's like, no. I'm like, I didn't even fucking see it,
dude. Fucking hotel bar. It was literally. It looked like it came from Chewbacca. I looked down at it. And I was like, god, dude. Like, and I was like, no, and I didn't use it.
I go walking over and peek, and I'm all, oh.
And I come out, I was like, you could have at least cleaned the soap off.
I'm a hairy person, and my balls hair have never been that long in my life.
Dude, it was bad. It was super, and it was hot. It was. We were coming back from surf, and it was California.
We were on our way.
We're right on the.
We were on our way there.
No, it was the way back because that's when we had. Oh, you're right. You're right. It was on our way there. Because we went to the Napa the next morning, and got that's when we got oil in Lincoln City or in Newport. But it's like 85 degrees out
or something.
No, dude, it was like rad. There was the only so we were supposed to leave at a set time. So when Bobby says he'll be there at 3:00 and shows up at 6:30, like
I was like, I should be there about 4, and I got there at like 4:45. But Andrew, I broke his arm.
Yeah, that was a different time. But so this was COVID. This was surf 2 years. Was it last year?
Probably
was it last year.
I don't know. Last year was the weird time year, like 2 weeks or like a month later.
So last year, yeah, it was the year before that. Then that was when COVID was.
It was the year before. It was the COVID.
2020.
Yeah, I flew to Reno, and I pulled up to Minneapolis airport, and dude, there was nobody there. Like it was like COVID was in effect, and they still did surf. They still allowed it. So I flew to Reno, and Bobby drove to Reno, and then me, Bobby, John, and Johnny all drove to Surf City with the side-by-sides, and everything was closed. Like we went to stop at this whatever town we were in. We had just come over the border in Oregon, and
we were gonna eat.
We were gonna go to the restaurant.
We ended up eating like Taco Bell like 5 times.
Burger King,
in fucking 3 days.
So we ate at Burger King, and John got the truck and the like 40-foot long trailer. So we walked through the drive-through, and they're like, we can't serve you. And it was like, well, the lobby is locked. The truck won't fit through the drive-through. So like, what do you want to do? Long story short, we got our food, and then we kept driving, and we burned. And we finally got to where we were going. We got to the hotel, and it's like 2 a.m, and it's kind of drizzling out. It's like the Oregon coast weather. And Bobby's sitting there. He just keeps looking at the Taco Bell. He's like, man, I'm kind of hungry. And he goes over there, and he's got his little hoodie on. He's all bundled up. He's like, hello,
hello.
He's like yelling in the mic. He's like, hello.
The fucking sensor wouldn't pick me up, and then Andrew walked over. Hey, can I help you? We're like, yeah, we're gonna get some fucking tacos and nonsense.
The next morning, we went through that Taco Bell again because it's right next to the hotel. And
the
John,
fucking trailer,
dude, John
dragging the trailer on trees and
fucking
shit.
Dude, like the tire is like window level, so like she looks up the truck, and then she like looks back like at the trailer, and she's not impressed. And like John comes out, and the trailer is just dragging ass the whole way.
And it was fine. The drive-through was supposed to like make a hard left.
It was like a 90 degree right.
And John's like running over bushes and fucking rocks and out over curbs and into the street and shit. And
I drove over the median. The trailer's in the back. It's just bouncing. John's like, nah, it'll be okay.
Awesome.
It was funny because we ran out of oil and we went to the Napa in not Lincoln City. It's in Newport. We're at Newport, Oregon, on our way to surf, and we needed to get oil. And so like I have a Sky shirt on. John's with me. He's got a Sky shirt. Johnny was out and Bobby was out. I know, or were you in there with us? I don't know. But we go to check out. We've got like 10 gallons of oil or whatever it was. It was a lot. And the guy's all like, he sees our shirts and he's
of oil.
Yeah, because we bought the big 5-gallon jugs because it's a diesel. We had 2 of the big jugs of
quarts,
oil.
Quarts, not gallons. Quarts.
Yeah.
5-quart jugs.
Gallon jugs. Yes, sorry. We had 2 gallon jugs of
5 quart.
Yeah, well, 2 1-gallon jugs of oil. Yes.
5-quart.
The guy sees our shirts and he's like, "Oh, you guys know Skyhacker Audio?" And I'm like, "Oh, that shit's junk." And he's like, "Well, I thought it was pretty okay. Like, I did a lot of research and like I've been running in my build." And I'm like, "Oh, I've offended you." I'm like, "I'm sorry." Like,
I'm just joking.
I was just kidding. And he's like, "Yeah, I follow, Steve Mead and all of his stuff, and Sky's been really cool." And like John's paying for everything. I was like, "Have you ever met the owner of Sky High?" And John looks at me and I'm like, "He's right here." And I grab the oil and I walk out the door. John comes on, he's like, "I hate you so much."
I was like, "Hey, you did it to him."
He doesn't like that limelight. He's not a very good podcasty.
Somebody was telling us a story. I can't remember who was telling us the story. Maybe it could have been you, Bobby, when we were driving to Oregon about a situation like that. And the guy was talking up to John about all the stuff about how I'm going to Sky High and I know the owner and this and that. And John was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah."
John made a post about
that. We were at
John was telling us about that. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to get all my..." Oh, no. The dude was saying that he knows the owner. John told us the story when he was on the podcast with us. And the guy was like, I'm getting hooked up by the owner of Sky High. I know him. And John's all right on.
Dude, we were at Sand Mountain, and Joel and I were doing something, and this guy just comes up, and John's over like the camper. He's like maybe 10 feet away behind us, and Joel and I were doing something, and the guy comes. Oh, we were at the monster truck, and he comes up. He's like, "Oh yeah, like Sky High this, and I know John," and we're like, "Really? He's out here? Have you seen him?" And he looks around. He's like, "No, like we go way back, man. We've been friends since high school, and all this, and yada yada yada." And John comes walking over, and he's like, "Joel, will you come get this?" And he didn't even recognize nothing. And I'm just like, he's your best friend, like best buddy, just known for all these years.
Yeah.
People just get so excited and they start talking, and then all of a sudden they like are trying to sell it, and it's an awkward fucking thing, man. I years ago I'd probably be like, "You're a fucking liar." Now I'm all, that's nice. Fuck. Hey, I gotta go. Get out of my way. Like I just like I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't know, Bob. You got that celebrity status. You go places and, "Hey man, will you come here and listen to my stuff?" Like
no,
you get that.
Cool with that. No, I just mean when somebody's full of shit. I don't like when we were at the NorCal Truck Mania a couple weekends ago. This guy's like, "Yeah, dude, and I had 315s and I had 212s, and bro, I couldn't, like, I blew the windows out every time I turned it up." And I'm like, that shit happens all the time when you have 212s.
Hell yeah.
That's the magic number, but man, that's why nobody does it.
Especially when they're kickers
right away. And I just like walked away. I'm all super annoyed. I'm all, fuck. Like,
can you imagine what's going to happen to my back glass with all the kickers I got? It's going to fucking go in the orbit, dude.
Yeah,
but no, it's just going to be Thanos snapped out of existence.
It's just going to disappear right when I turn it on.
Dude, you're good.
Yeah, as soon as you turn, like as soon as the amp powers up, boom, fucking over. Yeah.
God, which will just disappear.
It's actually the warp portal. Yeah, it's actually the reason the kicker Bronco won't be playing at SEMA. We turned it on in kicker, and every window just disappeared out of the building. It was insane.
Yeah,
every back in a quarter-mile radius just exploded. It was wild.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
215s, dude. That's all you need.
You know, it's 315s and 212s. That's that.
315s.
Yeah.
And a 10
and 212s. That was these like good. And every time I cranked it up, I blew all the windows out of it every time. That's what he fucking said, and I'm like,
I love it.
Me and Joel, and I'm all that's great. Nobody does that way, and I just like walked away.
I remember a story of.
I was all annoyed. I'm like, I was like, fucking God, I should have like got my phone out and started filming him, but I was so annoyed because when somebody just wants to just,
it's like that Mega 40K,
dude. You're like, fucking stop it. God, what's wrong with you, man? You're a grown man. You're like 25 years old. What the fuck?
But, boy, 25's grown? Oh, God.
I mean, it was full size. I don't know.
What are you eating, Drew?
Chicken.
I don't know. He's making me hungry. It's all crunching.
I was literally just thinking about it.
I'm hungry too.
You keep making noises.
I was actually going to start looking on my Yelp. No, I don't yell anymore, dude.
I
don't yell.
You were yelling about the dog. That's what I was talking about. Remember?
Yeah.
What's going on in these comments over here?
So, Andrew, why are you on the road right now? Why don't you tell our viewers what you are doing?
We are bringing the B2 Burnban to the SEMA show for the first time. It's as some of you know that Steve has graciously been our what is the concierge, our audio concierge for for SEMA, and has kind of organized and put together and really gave us an opportunity to get a couple vehicles and show the SEMA world what we're doing with the audio community. And we were lucky enough to be invited in the group. So we are, I'm actually in a hotel room right now, if you can't tell, in Gillette, Wyoming. And I am on my way to Las Vegas to bring the bourbon down for SEMA and then the showdown on the weekend. So I'm super excited to have the opportunity to kind of show off, what we do. And, the bourbon's kind of a unique vehicle. I wouldn't say it's the nicest or the loudest or the this or that, but it has a good combination of being unique. We, when we kind of set out to do it, I had never seen a C series Suburban that was just like slammed and had like a giant audio build in it. I had seen some, but most of them are rusted out and gone, and you don't really see a lot of Suburbans anymore. So I kind of came across it, and it originally started off that it was going to be something kind of little and turned into the monstrosity that it is now. So yeah, being able to bring it down and give demos and show people what we're all about is hopefully what we're going to do next week.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the spot they gave us. I think we're going to get a lot of really good exposure. Spot. It's a great spot. We're right out front where all the action is, and the B2 Burnban is going to fit perfectly because you're kind of being humble. It is top 5 nicest builds in car audio right now. Maybe top 2 or 3. Besides Brent's, it's fucking up there, dude. And I think people are going to notice it at SEMA without even seeing the audio build. Because you said, you don't see a lot of C-style Suburbans anymore, ever.
Just the fact that it's slammed on the ground, when people be like, "Oh, look at that fucking bourbon is dumped," and then they'll walk up and be like, "Whoa,
holy shit!"
It's super nice. And it's loud as hell too. That's the difference. Not just nice; it's also loud, which is super hard to do. Obviously, we all know that. Yeah, he played a whole song for me. Kind of.
Yeah, when Kyle came over for when we were at Samology, like I played like a full. With him and Nate got in there, and we played like the full Cowboys from Hell, from DJ Rusticles. It was like a solid like 3 minutes. And he like the song got over. I'm like, all right, dude, let's do another one. And he kind of looks at me. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude, let's do it. Like, and we played all day, every day. Like, it was incredible. And the vehicle had, other than I had some engine problems and I was having some weird issues with idling and brakes. So it was like mechanical. But beyond that, like electrically, the Suburban had no problems. I mean, we played for hours. The people in the booth were counting, like they were counting demos. And Sunday morning, I think that Skylar and Andrea, they lost count. It was like 300. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Wow. She's like, I don't know. I had to go do some stuff. And it just went on and on. I started to look for a song. And I was like, we got to get some more songs. I keep playing the same crap. I need to find something else. And then like this line formed. And I gave demos out for 3.5 hours straight without getting out of the vehicle, without shutting it off, like song after song after song. And I had to stop. Like my face was numb. I was like, I have to get out of here. And we were having some idling issues. So I had to keep my foot on the gas, just like this much to keep it idling with the alternators and everything running. So that's why like I couldn't get out of it. So I sat there for 3.5 hours and I told the people, I was like, I'm sorry, guys, like, give me like 20 minutes. They're like, everybody's like, oh, did it break? I'm like, no. Like, it's fine. It's me that's the problem. Like, I broke. I got to get out. I need a break. Like, I'm broken.
Fucking broken. And nobody else knows how to operate this. So,
dude, like 2 days.
Let me go eat lunch and pee. Fuck.
Literally, it was like 2 days in the slam. And after it, I was so like physically exhausted just from sitting in it and listening to it and over. Like my ears weren't ringing. I didn't have any issues, from that perspective, but like my body was just like, dude, you gotta stop. Like it's too much. So next year I told Easton, I was like, I am not sitting in it for that amount of time.
No, like whenever you have a build that sounds good, that isn't distorting, it doesn't have crazy like harsh tweeters. And it's like you say, like your ears don't hurt, but you're just physically just.
I always call it like the smile factory, because like that's usually what happens. Like people come in and they plug their ears and they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be crazy," and then they get it and they're like, "Wow!" Like it's not too much. It's fun. It's not the loudest thing out there, but we really wanted something that was like finished. There's tons of people. And that's from SEMA. There's a lot of builds that you get into and it's like you get blasted with sawdust or fiberglass, and I was like, man, I just want it to be finished. I want anybody to be able to get into it. If they're 400 pounds or if they're 7 feet tall, it doesn't matter. You can get in the bourbon and you can still enjoy it. So
I want to try to find a good picture of your switch panel, and you could talk about that thing a little bit, because it's really
a little ways back.
It's so unique for what we're doing. I almost want to have you build one for me and pay you for it, because it looks like there's a hell of a lot going on there.
There's a lot of people that are like, I want one of them, and how much would it cost? I was like, I don't know, I probably got about $2,500 into it. And they're like, what? I'm like, dude, we built it like 3 times.
Wow. Everybody wants everything until they hear the price.
Well, here I can go to this.
There's one that's zoom in. The other side. Yeah, there you go.
I got super duper bitched out on Messenger by a guy that was asking about an all acrylic box for like 2 13W7s the other day. He was mad as fuck. Like sent me this snotty ass message and shit. And I was like, I am super duper not interested in ever doing anything for you at all. And he's like, oh, what? Like, you don't want to build it? And I'm all, no, I don't. Even if you agreed to the number I told you, I'm still not building a fucking thing for you ever.
I had that happen like this week. Dude wanted us to build and install a system. I was like, no, like we're not open to the public in that capacity. He's like, oh, I saw you worked on Price's truck. Like, yeah, well, we've been friends for a long time, so it's not really. It's different.
It wasn't a business deal. It was I was helping out my buddy, and he helped me out by paying me appropriately. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like I said, we're not open to the public in that way. He said he's like I'll pay you whatever it takes. I'm like, you're not feeling me, dude. It's not about the money. He's like I make $100,000 a year. I could afford it. I'm like,
Find somebody else. Yep. Yeah, I was actually going to ask the same question there, Andrew. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Sorry. I would say, like what you were saying there, Drew and Bobby, it's like, everybody always says that the customer's always right. And I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Sometimes you got to fire the customer, man. It just, sometimes you, as a business owner or whatever you're doing, it's like, man, we ain't going to work together. Like, I don't want my stuff in your build. I just, like, that ain't going to work for me.
I fired somebody Sunday. He had messaged me Saturday at like 10 p.m. on the business page. I didn't reply because it's Saturday, 10 p.m. and I was busy. He messaged my personal page at like 8 a.m. Sunday. I'm like, nope, no, sir. Yep. Get on somewhere.
You have people message you, and I don't know. Bobby and I talked about this a while back about, the instant response and the instant gratification where people think that they get to be in your life 24/7, 365. That they send you a message at fucking 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and you're supposed to stop what you're doing.
You better reply, or you're getting questioned.
You better reply. Oh, I sent them a message and they didn't reply to me, and it's like I go back and I look at my phone and I'm like, dude, you messaged me at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. It's now Monday morning at 9 a.m. Like, yeah. I haven't processed all the messages, so
I think the pandemic kind of helped with that a little bit. Yeah. People seem to be a little more patient now than they were 2 years ago. Right. At least that's my experience has been. Like, people seem to be a little less like jumpy with their response. Like, if you tell them I had a little issue, there's been an issue with shipping or this and that's coming right out.
Oh,
they've all been pretty nice about it.
That end of it, where you're like, hey, look, here's an example of one. I have a customer. He's out in Hawaii. He ordered it was on my way home from the barbecue. I stopped to get fuel and I got on the phone with this customer, talked to him for about 45 minutes, and he's getting an all acrylic Ford truck box. We sent him an invoice. I talked to him for a bit. I called Allison. Allison jumped on the phone with him, set up his invoice, sent it over. He paid right away. I was like, I expect to do this in the next, 6 weeks. And I had, a bunch of stuff for John Raby, and I had, a little bit of finished work to do on the Raiden truck and the custom grill. These projects came in front of that acrylic box, and I didn't know quite the magnitude of what it would be to do those suspension links or this grill. So customer reached out and was like, hey, it's been about 6 weeks since I placed my order, and you haven't sent me the rendering or anything yet. And I was like, oh, hey, I meant to contact you sooner, and I didn't. I apologize. I was like, these projects are in front of yours in line, and they need to get done. And once those are complete, then I can start on your project. And they were a bit more, than we expected time-wise. And he was like, oh, I totally understand. When you get to my project, I want you to take the love and care and attention. And he like broke it all down. He got every bit of it before I even had to explain anything. And he was super duper cool about it. And that's the thing, right? But what I think what Drew and Andrew were talking about is that there are still a lot of people that are like, hey, and 3 hours later, it's like question mark. And it's like, oh, that guy? Fuck you.
Yeah, those guys didn't get the memo.
Or like, hey, I have a question, and like a handful of hours go by and I didn't respond to you, and you send me question marks, I'm gonna be like, I'm not interested in whatever the fuck you want. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, and Messenger's like, dude, you send me an email, and I'm like, I'm about that. I can usually, I'm every morning, every night, the first thing I do, I get up, I do my morning routine. What do? I check my emails. I got X amount. Like I go through emails, but notifications, especially Facebook, like, I mean, you guys know, I get hundreds and hundreds of notifications every single day. And it's like, you sent me a message or you tagged me in something on Facebook. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. I literally got 455.
Yeah, just assume if you tag us, we don't see it.
Right. I mean, it's like,
I think Facebook just doesn't push most of them because it'd be too many.
Well,
I don't have notifications popping up on my phone for Facebook. Otherwise, my phone would explode. But we do. I reached a point where I was like, there's no way I can answer all of these messages. So then Allison, my wife, started helping me out quite a bit. And so we answer everybody. We answer everybody on Instagram. We answer everybody on Facebook, and we answer all our emails. We do it all. We do it. And that's part of our deal. You know, you pay the premium price, you get the premium service. We're going to answer you in a reasonable period of time.
But that's the issue.
Every once in a while, something will slip through. But man, it's hard to keep up with everything during the weekdays. The shop phone and like everybody's like it's like the hot potato. You're like, here you go. It's all hot and people been on it and it's been ringing all day. And you saw that when you were at the shop, Drew. That thing was like, I'd be like, here you go, Brett. And he'd be like, damn, all right. And he'd be like, this is going to slow down.
The battery makes it through the day,
back
bro.
there. And I'm all, you got to do it though, because I need to do all this other shit. And he'd be like, okay. And it's a lot.
Yeah, and then like I've had to really limit how much like just help I give people. Unfortunately, like the dude messaged me today, wanted me to explain to him how to wall a vehicle. I'm like, I can't, man. I'm sorry. Like I don't have time to sit here and explain to you how to wall a vehicle today. Especially
I'll do it for you.
Fucking put a wall up, dude. That's how you do it.
Build it strong,
Get
bro.
to work.
But he was like, he's like, could you walk me through it step by step? No. Nah, man, I can't, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, you either kind of have it or you don't, and I think there's it's almost like our representation of art with some of the stuff. You know, it's like you've seen the stuff that Bobby makes, and I mean, it's literally like an expression of art, you know, and craftsmanship, and people look at it. You know, I sell Gately enclosures out of our store here in Minnesota, and it's like, you know, people are like, it's $600 for a box, and I'm like, yeah, but look at everything that's behind this box. Or, you know, a $2,000 truck box or whatever it is. It's like you have somebody who's been doing this for 20 plus years using literally the best possible material that a speaker box can be made from. Like, and they don't understand the back end of it and the, you know, the craziness. It's like, you know, like your lumber being stored in a temperature controlled, humidity controlled environment for, you know, to make sure that it doesn't warp. You know, people don't know about that. Maybe they don't care, but it's like, all of this, you know, comes at a premium price, and you get artistry. And some of these builders that are out here are just, they're making masterpieces, and it's like, it's very impressive. And like you said before, you know, you guys got to prop up the bourbon, and you know, Easton and I look at it and we're kind of like, you know, and we get a lot of compliments, but it's really hard to see like completed projects and really appreciate some of the work that people do. A lot of the times it doesn't ever get done. You know, that's the other deal, is that, you know, the endless project where it just goes on and on and on and on and on. But
well, it will always be. I mean,
like
if you're operating that thing, you're going to be working on it all the time. I mean, look at those steel rings that you made to hold the subs in place. And then what we were talking about earlier today, when you were like, at some point I'm going to rebaffle it. And I'm like, whoa, there's going to be a lot. You'll be in there.
I've thought about that too, rebaffling mine, like maybe in the future. And I was thinking to myself, like, that's going to be so much work. There's just, it's not.
I've never built something with a plan of rebuilding it later. That's it, bro. I'm building it once.
So
we rebaffled the Green Monster in one day, and it was a really long day. And Buddy Williams,
it doesn't count as one day if you just don't go to sleep for 4 days.
His ass off. I machined the new baffle, and I fucking brought it over to my shop. And I was like, all right, buddy, this is where we got to cut. And he's like, there's no turning back. I'm all, look, it's not going. It's either going to go to the show with 9 fucking 15s, or it's going to sit here with 4 broken 18s. So, like, let's just get started. And if it doesn't work out and we don't bring it, then so be it. And we were leaving 2 days later. And we just started cutting. And and I was like, drawing lines. I'm like, you got to cut like this. And he's like, I can't get that far. And I was like, well, then you're going to grind it. So get as close as you can. And then I like masked him up and gave him one of those big old grinders like I used to shape boxes with. And I was like, grind until you reach this line. He's like, it's like 3 inches thick. I'll get batteries on the chargers. And he's like, and the shit was everywhere. And we're vacuuming as we go. And we cleared that sucker out. And we made some little notches, and we slid that baffle in and put all the little braces in place. And like he was like, "We're almost done." And I'm all,
wasn't that for the Showdown, the CES Showdown?
It was. Yeah.
It was the previous box. We went, so when he had the 18s in there, me and John and company went to dinner, and Bobby calls me. He's like, "Hey, bro, do you have any more of these 18s?"
No,
like,
no, let's rewind about 5 minutes, right? Okay, so we have these X2C 18s. They're a 117-pound motor, 5-inch voice coil, massive custom-built 18s they made just for me.
Just for Bobby. Literally just for Bobby.
They built them in Denmark.
Yep, Jay built them in Denmark at the shop.
He had them in that packing foam, and it was like a fucking sarcophagus. It was so hard to get them out of the foam. And it wasn't like two halves that come apart. It was like one piece. And I mean, they were packed good. They weren't going to get broken in shipping, but unpacking them is a little bit of a different story. So I'm like cutting with a knife, and I'm cutting these things open, and I'm ripping the cardboard off, and I started getting a rhythm. There was 6 of them, and it took about 1 hour for me to get each one.
And it's 9 o'clock at night.
To get each one out, each one 1 hour.
Yeah, imagine you took a subwoofer and put it in a plastic bag, and then put it in a cardboard box that didn't have another plastic bag in it, and squirted in the really crazy expanding foam, and then taped that motherfucker closed while it and it was like packed tight.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the box is fused to the foam, and
and
I'm like whittling at it with fucking Joel's pocket knife. And I'm like, I got it. I'll do it. And I'm sitting there doing it. And it was 45 minutes to an hour each one. And I was busting my ass. It's freezing ass cold. I'm in flip-flops. I'm on the floor of my ass. I'm fucking, and I go to unpack, and I think it was the last one I was going to unpack. What I had been doing is I kind of stabbed into the middle of one side panel of the box, and got the tip of the knife in there, and then I would peel down, and I would and I went, and this one time it went, and I went, oh shit, and and I started kind of cutting and pulling away, and I look, and I just went right through the fucking surround, and and I stood up, and I'm all, hey guys, you guys stop, it's over. I'm really sorry. I fucking just ruined the subwoofer. And
dude, I'm munching away,
and I call
Korean barbecue,
and I try to call John Rabby, and he doesn't answer.
Because we're at
hey, you don't have another one of these here somewhere? They didn't make a few extra of this or anything. He's like, no. And I'm all, I fucking stabbed right through this surround. And and Andrew's like, oh shit. And he's like, hey John, hey Bobby.
Press me 6,000 on it.
John's all, give me the phone. He's like,
tape that
Gorilla tape on that shit. It's gonna be fine. It'll probably last forever. And I'm all,
yeah,
okay. And I'm like, you got any Gorilla tape? Joel's like, yep. Oh yeah, that'll work fine. Oh, I see what you did. And we taped that sucker up, and we put that thing in, and that sub
all day
stayed perfectly functional. And like other subs, I was breaking other woofers doing other things. That thing was perfectly fine the whole fucking time. But yeah,
Gorilla tape is magic, to be honest.
It's pretty cool shit. I've
seen people.
I saw a guy replace a fucked up surround all the way around and have it be functional and loud and awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's been pretty crazy. So, anyways, back to your question about the bourbon control panel, since we kind of veered off of subject here. So, at some point, like I said, the Suburban went from kind of like a small undertaking to this massive project, because if I'm good at anything, I got a billion ideas. I'm like, what I have never seen and I've always wanted to see is that how much current is your alternator outputting? Honestly, can you imagine seeing it in real time? So I want to monitor. I want to know, if you're at a show and your alternator overheats and it just goes to shit, would you know? At what point would you be like, oh dude, my voltage is I'm having a problem here. This is an issue. And my good friend Joshua Lind, we got talking, and I was like, this is what I think we can do. We could like build a panel, and we could have 7 alternators, and we'll have 7 temperature displays and 7 current outputs, and then we'll have battery voltage at the front and battery voltage at the back. So that's what the extra 2 screens are for. I was like, let's
it'll actually tell you amperage out of the alternators.
Yeah, that's what the bottom screens do. They show you in real time how much current is being outputted from the alternator.
That's freaking awesome.
So I don't know if you ever knew that or not, but that's what the bottom screens are for.
I didn't fucking.
You didn't know that, Bobby? Yeah. No, I can see in real time what each and I showed people that because all at an idle, I can, for example, I can turn the first alternator on, and it's putting out at idle 175 amps. Which is like crazy. They're brand X 425s. So it's almost 200 amps. Now, if I turn 2 alternators on, they'll take that. They're at the same voltage set point, and instead of each of them doing 200 amps, they'll split the load, and now each of them are doing about 110. Because that's how much current the battery is accepting. Because they're all bused to the same fuse block. So they're fused individually, but the big block that you see under the hood with all the wires running through it, that's by my master cylinder, that people are like on the internet telling me that like my vehicle is not serviceable because I put wire over my master cylinder. That whole block was all custom built. It's all custom 3D printed, and that I believe is the second or the third one of those that we made. But Josh was critical in like the development of this thing because he's the one that like built the circuit. So I've got the idea. It's kind of like Jobs and Wozniak, right? I've got the idea, and I'm pretty good in the application, and we sourced the parts. But Josh designed the circuit, and we kind of took our abilities and meshed them together, and that's what we got. So it has current sensors up front, and then so all the temperature sensors plug into the current block, is what we call it, and then there's individual current sensors in the front that measure all of the current from all the alternators. So I get temperature and current in real time. And then the control panel itself is smart to a point where all 7 circuits are independent, but they talk to each other. So alternator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 can be put in 3 modes. They can be off, on, or auto. So if you push and hold essentially the power button for the alternator, it brings up and you can set the on and off temperatures of the alternators. So I want it to turn off at 300 degrees, and I don't want it to be able to turn back on until it's at least under 200. So if you set that in auto mode, it'll turn it off, and it'll say, all right, I'm going to move to the next one. I'm going to turn that one on. And it's going to say what's its temperature set point at and what's its current temperature. And if it's within that margin of what we've set, it'll turn that alternator on. If not, it'll say, all right, you're hot, I'm moving on. And it'll just kind of go through the system. I don't leave it in auto a lot because certain combinations, because there's 7 alternators on a dual drive serpentine belt system, and trying to align the alternators so that everything's perfect and they don't squeal or have any issues is like a nightmare. So I'm going to probably switch it, and I've been working with Jonathan Patrick at Brand X, and I think we're going to switch it to like a cog belt, like you'd see on like a timing chain, so that we don't have the serpentine belt rib problem. And that way I'll be able to change whatever alternator I want. Because if I turn on like 1 and 4 and like 6, then my belt's like squealing, and it's like, ooh.
That would sound wicked too, because cog drive sounds badass, man.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah, you'd be like, damn, look at this thing. So that'll happen probably sometime next year. But the whole
you're not going to do that before SEMA?
I had no idea that it was so complicated or had so much technology in it. That's crazy.
So the circuits everything was custom built. So it's not just like breadboard and some jank wiring. Like they're all printed circuit boards. They were done in a run. Like we did everything so that like the whole circuit panel up front is a printed circuit board that we ordered. Josh designed the circuit board. We had them all printed and then assembled all the components on them, soldered everything, and they actually talk via data from the front to back. So there's RJ45 and a Cat6 cable that runs between the current block and then each of the sensors in the back. So it people look at it, they're like, I want one of them. I'm like, it took us 1.5 years to build. Like, and I'm
dude,
not,
literally, I had no idea it was this
so
in depth.
Yep. So we're not. Well, and then on top of that, so there's 7 independent. So everything is essentially redundant in the Suburban. So there's 7 alternators. There's 7 regulators. There's 7 individual control modules, so that they can all work together, or they can, if you have a problem, it can just work independently. Like at Slam, for example, my misaligned. Let me put it like this. So my misaligned alternator belt system had caused one of the ribs to essentially start wearing off the belt, and it was whipping around, and people are like, oh my God. And I just walked over there and I'm like, snip. I just cut the belt off, and they're like, what are you going to do? I was like, there's 4 on this side and 3 on this side, so I can just run the other side. And they looked at me and they're like, God, that's a good idea. And I'm like, we built it to play it and to go all day. You know, it's like, what are the issues you have? Well, you lose one alternator. Okay, I'll get 7. Do I need 7 alternators? No, but it looks pretty cool, and it's really redundant. And it's the stuff that's behind it. And this really goes into, and Bobby, you'll know this quite a bit, Drew and Steve as well. You can take 2 vehicles that are exactly the same, and you can put the same audio equipment. You can have 2 different builders build them, and they will sound completely different. And it's just, sometimes you just have it, the way you put it in, the way you tune it, the way you route your wires, the way that your install is, just sometimes it's different. And, you know, I took my experience, and I don't know if you guys know this or not. I used to work for Motorola, and I used to build like emergency vehicles, and I grew up building like cop cars and fire trucks and ambulances and command trailers. So, you know, I did a lot of mission critical, you know, vehicle installations and whatnot. So I kind of have taken that side in like my 2-way radio communications experience and applied that into like car audio. Like, I think we could do this, and we could do this, and we'll do this, and we'll make it redundant, and you do the things that matter. You know, the battery, or all the power wires are all 2-aught, ran from the front to back. They're fused in the front and the back. And people are like, why would you put 2 fuses on it? I'm like, because your power source is in the front and your battery is in the back.
If you have a common fuse block in the front, like you said,
correct,
one fuse may pop in the back, but then everything in the front still connected. Then you have all those fuses you have to go through, and you'll melt the wire in half before you burn through that much fuse.
Well, and when you're dealing with, you know, some of the systems that we're doing now, I mean, lithium batteries are fantastic, and they're great, and their power density per pound is incredible, but it's you put it in the hands of the wrong person, and they have an improper installation, or they cheap out on this or that, and it's like, you could be a real problem real quick, because you know, you don't want a lithium fire. Like, once you get that, it's like a tire fire. Like, you don't. I even looked into and all the systems that the Bourbon has. I actually looked into a fire suppression system. That, what would I do if my lithium battery is caught on fire? Because they don't require air to burn. They have all the fuel that they need. It's a chemical reaction, and they'll just go. And you'll see them put a lithium fire out, and it's goes right back up, and
they'll burn for a week.
Spray it down, and it will burn until it has nothing left to burn. And there are some things out there that can combat that, but I can tell you right now, they're very expensive. And if there was one that was possible to be put in a vehicle, it would have probably been in the Suburban. It's kind of like, we kind of called it Project Overkill. It's like, let's do something and make it crazy. Oh, we'll do it like this.
Amplified makes one.
You run an LTO, right, Andrew? LTO batteries?
Yeah, so those are the Gorillas, actually, from Limitless. So they're an LTO. Well, yeah, they're skims, I think.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Luckily, I mean, that is the safest chemistry for us to run.
Yeah. I had like, so I got the Limitless batteries from Chris over there, and they were like not a thing. They were like the secret little, like, we have them, you know, because I've had them for years now, and they kind of, you know, then they did the run of the Gorillas, and then they kind of got rid of them. And I can tell you what, I have never been so impressed with a bank of batteries in my life. There's 4. They're like I think they're G80s. They're kind of like G80s. They're kind of special because they were like the prototype batteries, but I've never been so impressed by a bank of batteries in my life. There's 4 of them in there, and we had all the power. And I mean, the Suburban died. It ran out of gas, and people were like, "Are you done?" I'm like, "Nah, we'll just keep going. We'll just demo a battery for a while." They have been pretty fantastic. I feel like I've been talking for a very long time.
Well, I mean, that was a lot of information.
Have at it, dude.
Hey, when you first were getting that controller system fired up, you shorted a wire or something. Remember, you and I were talking about it. How did you fix that? I'm just curious.
So it used to be that the block had a power ground and remote tied into them, and they were like kind of a really small terminal. And long story short, a wire head got pulled out of the terminal a little bit, and it shorted right there at the block, and it blew up that whole block. And I was like, that sucks. So we built a new one, and then we decided that
instead of a whole new board and everything.
Yeah. So instead of the block pulling power from that power ground and remote, that they would run independently, because we found a flaw in the system, because that went out and then nothing worked. No alternators worked. I mean, nothing worked.
Yeah, I remember.
So we rebuilt the panel, and then essentially now the back panel gets power, and then the Cat 6 that runs from the back panel to the front panel powers all of the current sensors up there. So it gets power in the back where it's safe, and then all 7, so they can run independently. Like all 7 can run. If 5 fries or dies, the other ones, they don't care. So they all run in independent circuit.
You had to remake that whole thing again. I remember we talked about it when you were like, it won't work. I tried this thing and I'm not sure how to fix it. And I was like, there's no way to like bypass or like get in there and solder new shit on the board or something. And you were like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Wow. No. So we went in and we redesigned the panel, and it's worked out pretty good. I mean, it has some issues here and there. I mean, the next version of it will be a little bit more.
It's a one-off thing. You're gonna have issues.
Well, and that's the thing. And I try to explain to people is like you're looking at the specifications of these parts, and there's no guide to do what you want. I mean, we literally built this thing from nothing. And find current sensors that are, so when you're doing a Hall effect, if Drew, you understand what Hall effect sensor is, right? So like you'll like this, Bobby. So right, you have a wire that runs through a hole, and essentially if you want to measure power, you can either do a shunt, or you can measure that with like a Hall effect sensor. If you do a shunt, though, the problem is that shunts have a large interference. They can introduce noise into your power wire, and once you have noise coming from, you have these 7 of these shunts, and they have to be huge. They have to be like a 400 amp shunt, and they have to, they'll measure that power, but it's generally not a good idea. If you have audio down the line, they're going to pick up that interference. Mm-hmm. But to find a current sensor that was the right size, because you want it to be as close as you possibly can. Bobby's is bigger than mine, see? But you want that to be as close as you can so that you can measure current accurately.
Why did you do this?
We had to source all of those.
Why did you do that?
Because that's me. That's me, and then that's you. So it's just live that life,
The smaller the capacity, the faster can discharge generally. Yeah, so they're not more. They can discharge faster, but they have less capacity. So it depends on what you're after, if they are more powerful or not.
That's, like the CMAX banks, you have the 5.25s, or you have, what are they, 25 amp hour cells?
I think so. I'm not up on CMAX too much.
Right. So you have you can get the same, you can put them all together and you can build this giant battery bank out of them, but they'll technically have the same amp hour rating, but one will discharge way faster than the other one will. Yep. But I don't know. I think there's something in the world today of car audio that, like, people will take this battery versus this battery. This one has 2,675 amps of current capacity, and this one has 2,493. And they'll just analyze it to death. And I'm like, dude, you don't even notice the difference. Like I'm going to buy this 2,300 watt amp, or I'm going to buy this 2,500 watt amp. And I'm like, they both do rated power. You generally can't tell the difference between 200 watts. Like,
Yeah.
unless it's a really
if they're
small
asking
system.
that question, they can't.
Right. I mean, you're generally not, and people just get so tied up on this 4-inch voice coil takes. It says it takes 5,500 watts, and this 4-inch coil over here only says it takes 3,500 watts. Well, what's the difference? And it's like you try to explain to people. Bobby has found that out with like of the B2 audio subwoofers. A lot of our stuff is really tight. People say that, man, these sound different, and I'm like, well, because they're kind of designed a little bit differently. A lot of subwoofers in America, like they have just a big gap in them. They're built to, just have a bunch of power. In Europe, a lot of the B2 audio design came from, Jay, who was a competitor who, he used to be with Blaupaunt, and he developed a company around like efficiency and sound quality. And they have little cars in Europe. They don't have giant vans, and it's like, would you rather take an 18-inch woofer and put 2,000 watts to it, and you're just as loud as the guy that's across the deal over here? He's got an 18-inch woofer on 7,000 watts, and you're just as loud as he is on a quarter of the power, whatever it is. And you try to explain to people, like, just because it says that it takes 5,000 watts doesn't actually mean that it, is better. It's efficiency, and it's your box, and it's your this, your that.
Just because the sub will take 5,000 watts doesn't mean it will do better than another sub on 3 that has a really nice tight gap and appropriate suspension to keep that shit in line, which is,
right.
The battle that I have experienced a little bit with developing my subwoofers is because I designed my subs to have a really close gap, and man, that shit was challenging to keep straight. And we were like rubby. Like as soon as we started being really abusive to the subs and running big power, it's the like, oh shit. Like, okay, well, this
there's a middle ground.
This needs to be rated at 500 watts, not 3,500 watts. And this one needs to be 4,000 and not 5,000, because when I start giving it 4,000, it's doing it great. And then it's like, I'm losing a little bit of cone control. And now I have coil rubbing against, the fucking motor. And yeah.
I mean, if you look at all the loud subs or all the efficient subs, they all have tight gaps. It's just the best subs have it. I mean, yeah, it's not a resilient team sub that'll take 40,000 watts per sub, but like the B2 subs or the 8-layer Sundown subs or any of these really good subs, they don't need that much power to get loud.
That's right.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Like, it's also ratings.
I want to run a 7,500 per sub. Like, well, what if you didn't have to?
Yeah, what if you could be louder with 7,500 on a pair in the same exact vehicle?
And someone kind of mentioned earlier about the amp swap in the B2 Burnban here, and we originally, the original design is we had 12, and we were going to run 12. We were going to run one per subwoofer, and we were going to run them at 2 ohm, so that we were like super efficient. And people don't understand that. It's like, well, why are your subs at 2 ohm? With Rise, you would be like, and I'm like, yeah, but it's called efficiency. It's called you're not working so hard to get what you need. You're not generating heat. This common stigma, like, I'm going to wire to 0.35, and I'm like, you should not do that. And they're like, well, I'm going to do it, and I'm like, okay, dude. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, my amp blew up, and I'm like, you remember back when I said to not do that? Like, don't do that. And he did it, and look what happened. And now you have to buy it again, or now you have to fix it. I wanted, again, to be. Let's be efficient. Let's play all day. Let's not have any problems. So we were originally going to do 12 amps. And long story short, before Slam, I was torture testing it, and I broke one of them. I had gotten the amps to Bobby Gately level hot, and I was outside. It was really hot, and I was playing for like an hour. I had no cooling on the back, and once that stack gets like heat soaked, it's just, and the bottom right amplifier, shit,
I bet that thing had to be 200 some degrees.
I couldn't touch it. It was so hot that I was, oh shit, that's too hot. Like, oh fuck. and I shut it all down, and I'm like, damn, dude, that bottom amp's in protect. I'm like, well, okay, let's see about it. Easton and I went home. Came in the next day, and the whole rack was still hot. And I'm like, ooh, that's probably not good. And
you didn't pull fuse or nothing, huh? Oh man!
No, I felt the power. I felt the power wire. The power wire was hot to those 4 amplifiers, and I'm like, Easton, we need to take these fuses out right now. Like it had been like that all night, and it was just sitting there, just pulling power. There was something that had happened, and this is like 2 weeks before Slam. So I've got this amplifier on the bottom right stack that's not serviceable at all. You have to, so to get that amplifier out, we would have had to have pulled all the power wires, all the fuses, and taken all the amplifiers out. And those stacks weighed 350 pounds a piece. It was ridiculous. Like the whole amp rack and everything you've seen, it was all built out of 316 steel. Like it's super duper heavy duty. And you have 6, 50 or 60 pound amplifiers in them. And it's just like, it all added up. And I was like, well, what can we do? I was like, we could do pairs and we could wire them at 1 ohm. Like they're dual 1 ohm subs. We were going to wire them at 2 ohms per amp. And I was like, let's just do 2. And so we rewired everything. We gain matched everything. We tested it out. And I was like, dude, this thing slaps on 6 amps. And it's super duper, like it's super duper happy. And I'm like, fuck it, dude, let's send it. Nobody will even know. They'll see it, they're like, oh, you got 12 amps, dude, that's crazy. And it's like, fun fact, man, I've only been running on 6 of them this entire time. Since the Bourbon has been playing at Slam, it has only ever been 6 amps. And so people are like, God, you're going to lose so much. And I'm like, well, fun fact, I kind of decided that it was good enough. Could it be louder? Absolutely. It could 100% be louder.
But it could be louder, but then you end up like Steven, constantly blowing stuff up.
And that's the thing, is that I think that Steven's van is louder than my Suburban.
It is. It is, but you can play a whole song.
I don't think they play the same.
They don't.
It's a different experience. I think that So, and what I've noticed too is that, we built the Bourbon with a 4th order, and we always wanted to play with both doors open. I don't want to have to shut a door. I don't want to hot seat people. I don't want this. I said, I want to play with both doors open. It's going to be fun, like a ride. Like you get in it and you're just like, yeah, this is crazy. And like people are outside. But, as you've said in your other post, Sergio, that I've seen, it's like you put 2 people in them doors and it's like noticeably louder. If I could,
you put the dude like me and you in each door. You're sealing the door up for them. That's more mass than the door itself is.
Even so put 3 people in it, and then put 2 people standing in the doors, and I swear it's like a dB louder.
Like easily.
It's like, damn, dude. Like, so if I could shut the doors and roll the windows down, that thing would kill it. Like it would kill it. And I'm like, dude, both doors open. Like we get demos in the way that we do, and we can play endlessly. Like that's I would rather do. But I mean, everybody here has heard the Bourbon. It's not like it's quiet. It's definitely loud enough to do, to impress people to the point that I'm happy with it.
Is it going to impress people who have sat in 168, 170 dB music builds? Or music builds? No, but that's such a small minority of people who hear it. I don't even care to impress those people because they'll never be happy.
I think that there's
my undrivable tank vehicle that burps a 174 is louder than this. You're like, we're proud of you, but you don't get it. That's beautiful.
Go open your other door and play this whole song.
Yeah. Right. Like, I'm not climbing over your hump to experience the fucking thing. And I'm like, it's like, you can walk right up. Like a whole family can pile into the Bourbon. As a matter of fact, they did. The owner of the Raiden, and his whole family got in the truck, all of them together. His kids, they're in there.
We had you and Allison, and we had the 4 of us in there. You, Allie, and who's the little kid that was with you?
It was Jim's daughters. It was like there was 2 daughters and a little boy. I think there was like 5 of us in there. It was they were all piled in with us. It was awesome.
Yes, Chris,
and that's what I like, is having fun and being a smile factory. Like I said before, it's the only downside to having like a super windy build like the Bourbon is that the level of human dander that Easton and I had to remove from the box. Dude, I was in the back of it and there was hair. There was like clumps of hair that were like in the subwoofers. And I'm like, dude, that's disgusting.
I
don't know whose hair this is.
I suddenly want a windy build even. I didn't want it to begin with. Now I want it even less. Hey, someone called
Dude, that
ask
is
him
like
how many
the
wigs are in the
one
back of his
thing.
van.
Oh,
Dude, it's like,
yeah.
No, it was
nasty.
unpleasant.
Nope.
Yeah. So
Never
people
thought
made
about
fun
that.
of my leaf blower, and I'm like, you don't even know. Like you crawl in that box, I crawl in that box. So Easton cut himself with a razor blade, and he kind of damaged himself to the point that loading subwoofers was not going to be a thing. Because generally that's an Easton task. He's small and nimble and really strong, and he's like Buddy Williams. He can just climb in the box and like manage it. So Easton's out of the picture, and I'm like, well, it's you or me. I guess I have to do it, and I am as wide and like thick as Easton is just wide. Like I'm like double of him. I'm double of the human that he is, and I fit in the box. But it is not pleasant. It is not a good scenario, and it was amazing. Like I try to tell people, it's like crawl down on your hands and knees, like lay on your belly, and pick 120-pound subwoofer up with your arms, like just your arms, and you can't drop it. You can't set it down because it's inverted. So yeah,
There
that's
you
the
go.
picture of me in the box.
Yeah,
Dude, it was
it
was like 1,000 degrees.
Dude, I was having this conversation with Greg Corbin this afternoon because I loaded the subs in the Explorer.
Were you talking about his extreme build?
No. We were just talking about how hard it was for me to load a 38-pound sub, those back ones, laying on my stomach, trying to do it like this. I have no idea how the hell I'm going to do this when the X's come out.
That's why Steven was so adamant to change the layout in the van, because the back subs would be the ones that blow up, and to get to them, you have to pull the front subs out, which are now at 150-degree motor temps. And then you have to lean over one to get to the 110-pound sub over a subwoofer like this. And you're like, no, this is awful.
Yeah, I'm dreading loading heavy subs. It's not fun at all.
You can see there's about this much room between the top of the motor and the box. So to couple it on top of there, you're trying to load this thing, and it's like you don't want to scratch the top, but you don't want to drop the bottom. It's like playing a really bad game of what's the buzzer game that you play?
Operation.
Yeah, Operation with subwoofers. You drop it, oh shit, you know.
They said it's always 20 degrees warmer in the box, sir.
Dude, it was
at the end of a day, to a point. At the end of a weekend for something like the Bourbon, I guarantee you is probably an 80-degree difference between the front and like the very back. It is boiling.
It was crazy because like depending on the atmospheric conditions is the only way that I could put it out. There was like points in time where it was like sucking air in. It was like pulling air in, and then it would be blowing hot air out. I don't know. The Bourbon has a front chamber like nothing I've ever really experienced. You know, I really wanted something with a seat, and you know, and Easton and I had this bare Suburban, and I'm like, dude, you know what would be really cool is if we had amps in the seat. and he looks at me, he's like, dude, that I don't think I've ever seen that. I'm like, not in an extreme build. You know, let's do this. And we spent hours trying to figure out what is the proper angle for the back seat, because Darian's is like this, and it's awful.
It's awful.
And I don't remember what we figured out. It's like 13 degrees or something, but we had figured out what the perfect angle was. So we built like 5 or 6 seats, and we're sitting in there like, oh no, maybe that's too far back, and like, oh, this is okay. And
18 degrees.
It's crazy. Yeah. Easton's in where there's 18 degrees. Is
it 18 degrees? And then what about and is the bottom flat at 0, or is it facing up a little bit? Is it kind of like
so
what is it, Easton?
So the back of the so the front of the loading wall has an angle to it. I didn't really notice that.
Yeah, so you're sitting on a seat, and there's it's an 18 degree,
and it's got a little bit of up on the bottom, right? Like your butt, it's a little bit, right?
Not intentionally, but yes, there's a little bit of a. It was never intentional. So when we built the Suburban, it was like, I mean, it was like piece by piece by piece. I mean, it was like I didn't have a plan. Like now, for example, like we have Darian's truck, and it's like everything's drawn out in CAD. You know, we have everything planned, lengths, everything, angles, all of it, like the whole cut sheet, everything's good. When we did the bourbon originally, I was like, that chop saw over there, I was like, Easton, go cut a piece. Measure out another one. I'm like, okay, cut another piece. And we just literally just chopped it together and kind of built it. I didn't really know what we were doing. You know, I've never built an extreme cabin demo build like that. So it was like, well, I've seen lots of pictures and I know lots of people. Well, you know, when I first told not Easton, CJ, I was like, I think I'm going to cut out the whole floor. And he looked at me, he's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to cut the floor out and I'm going to frame it out with 3/16 1x2s. He's like, man, that's a lot. And I'm like, well, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You know, sometimes you just gotta kind of
you make it too strong. How dare you?
It's funny too because the floor still resonates a little bit in the bourbon on certain frequencies, and it's like the floor started resonating, and Easton and I both look at each other and we're like, man, like there's layers of sound in there. It's all 3/16. It's all welded together. I'm like, how can that possibly resonate? Like, how is that physically possible? Like, we've put layers of deadener over
is
the
it
bottom,
something else hitting it or something, or
I don't
dude
know.
it's because it's a Suburban.
It's right above the transmission. It's like right above the transmission, and it's just
you're just resonating the transmission bell housing. That's all. Chill out. It's fine.
Well, we have that, you know, little bit of a problem, but if I can tell you what, if I were to do it again, I would do it very differently. And I think that's the whole point of, you know, being
okay. What would you do different?
Yeah, but and if you built it again, you know, after you finish the second one, you'd be like, you know, I would do it differently if I do it again.
Yeah, 100%.
If I did,
but the next one would be better. Like as awesome as it is, if it was like, all right, start again, it would take half the time. It'd be better. It'd be like you wouldn't be redoing.
But then when you get done, you'd say, you know, I would still do this different.
Oh, absolutely.
So we built the cage in the Suburban. Like a lot of people don't realize, like it's slammed. It has a full C notch. So like under the subwoofers, there's a whole C notch there. And if I could go back, the one thing that, like, if I had to pick anything, would have been that we cut that whole floor out and I would have taken the whole cab off of the frame, and I would have done all the prep. I would have done all the stuff. I would have completely like flipped the cab on its side, and I would have coated everything. There's no rust there, but there's just years of goop and shit. And I would have done all the frame, and I would have done like that, and then I would have cut the whole bottom out of it, and I would have built the cage on the frame. And then I would have dropped the body onto it so that the whole cage would have been like built outside of it. And then you like drop the body on it. That's what I would have done with the Suburban. If I ever had to do it again, I would not build it piece for piece inside of it. I would cut the whole bottom out and just drop the cab on it. It would be way better.
That's
kind of how we did the Explorer, not the floor, but the sides. Mm-hmm. We cut out all the interior steel that basically just had the outside skin, and then we built the cage.
I seen when Hunter was doing like the curved 1x2 or whatever you guys are doing. I looked at it, I was like, damn, dude, that's pretty smart. Like I didn't even thought about that. I was like, I'm gonna do that next time. That's way better than, you know, some of the stuff. But hindsight's 2020, you know. Yes, Hunter is a great fabricator. I remember asking him about what did he have at the CES Showdown? What did he bring there?
Probably his S10.
Yeah.
Yes. And the whole dash is like, you know, I asked him, I was like, how did you do this? He's like, that's fiberglass Bondo, and I shaped it with a grinder. And I'm like, oh, I never would have thought that.
Man of my style right there.
Right. I was like, damn, I never thought you would have shaped that whole thing with a grinder, let alone, you know. But
with working with Hunter for a little while, one thing that Hunter does completely opposite of me is I look at things for quite a long time and basically build it in my head multiple times to know how I want to do it, and then I start. Mm-hmm. Hunter just fucking jumps in there and he just goes at it. And I mean, he's got a lot of experience, so a lot of it he's possibly done, but even stuff he didn't really know, he just jumped right in there and just got it done, figured out his own way to do it. It's just a different way of doing things, but man, he welded up that whole shell for me, and it's incredible.
Well, like I was saying, is we
wish
started
Hunter would have welded the cage on this Neo hoe.
we never had a plan when Easton and I started with the bourbon. It was literally just like, let's map it out. And like I said, now it's been about 3 years since we started it, and we've come so far. Like I said, we like Darian Struck, for example. I mean, everything's mapped out in CAD, and having a little bit more of a plan, I think, is better off. How much steel do you buy? It was like, I don't know. I'll just go down and I'll buy X, and we'll see what we end up with, and literally just built it piece by piece by piece and welding it all in.
Still too high to do that now, bro. You got to remortgage the house to do that these days.
For real.
No, it's crazy how builds progress over the years, and the bourbon is I guess what really I think sets it apart is I could have never done the Suburban by myself. Easton, number one, Easton Johnson has been critical in the construction of the bourbon, but then again, on top of that, Jay, my partner with B2 Audio, John from Skyhacker Audio, the Limitless guys, Steve Mead has built me all these custom pieces, Josh. It's like I have all of these people that have helped us along, and it wouldn't be what it is without that group of people. And
the big builds are never done fully alone.
Right.
The great ones, at least. For them,
I've been doing a lot alone for the last month.
Been alone for a minute, huh, kid? Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I made you a baffle from fucking remote land over here, and I got your windshield coming. So
not alone.
That's true. No. But like so much of it, where I'm like, does anybody want to come help? And it's crickets. It's like, all right, I'll just go.
No, dude, I got super lucky with Price's Tahoe when I was here, because I was supposed to have all kind of help. People said they were going to help. No one showed up except for someone who's not even in car audio. He's an electrician who I just happened to be friends with for the last 10 years. He showed up.
Dude,
and
that's
Giovanni showed up. And Giovanni from showed up. That's it. That's all I needed.
That's kind of how Easton got started with what we're doing. He was in school, and it was like, hey man, like I need some help. You wanna come by? And he just kind of come by, and eventually just was like weekend after weekend after weekend, and we built the Suburban like nights and weekends. A lot of people come back and they're like, well, it took you 2.5 years to get it done. And it's like, fucker, dude, I don't just do this all day.
I mean,
I got a whole ass
that's how long builds take if you don't.
Right.
Like I guess they're used to seeing like Steven. He can send his crew to work and just do the van if he wants. He can just build and work on the van every day, all day. And he has. Like, there's been stretches where he's done nothing but work on the truck or work on the van for a month straight, every day, Monday to Friday.
That's fucking awesome. I mean, even when we're doing a large scale build, that shit will be like chilling in the parking lot, and we're like doing medium scale installs, trying to be on top of all the shit. Like you saw right before we went to the barbecue, we had like 3 installs, boom, 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 right before. You're like tuning those ones. Oh, we just finished that one. He's going to bring it in. You're going to tune it. We're going to do this, and then we're going to work on the Raiden too, and like
people just, the internet specifically, will just see outliers like Steven who jam stuff out fast and expect it that everyone can do that.
Right.
I don't understand. I don't get it.
The alternator situation, we had so the 7 alts that are in there, Jonathan Patrick built, from Brand X, and they were the first
of Brand X. Never heard of them.
The full billet 425s. They were like the first, but I waited almost a year. I was like waiting, and it's like, John, like what's going on, and he's like, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, and I'm not mad at him, I'm not upset by any means, but it's like, okay, Bobby, Steve, and if Steve's going to do what Steve wants to do, he's going to build me this fuse block, but he's going to build it on his time because he has 100 million other things to do. And it was like all these things took a long time to kind of come together, and it took years to finally get it to where it is. Yep. But like we're saying, Bobby, we're at the shop, and it's like, okay, our first priority is customers. Always, like, an order comes in, we'll process that order. I mean, if we're in the middle of working on something and it's 2:00 and an order comes in from the website, I'm like, oh, dude, like, we're gonna stop what we're doing. We're gonna ship that order, and we're gonna get it out before the pickup is, no matter what we're doing. And it's like, you have all these things to do, and it's like, the Suburban isn't the priority. It is a priority to get it done, but it's the nights and the weekends that you're really working on a lot of the personal stuff.
Right. And if you bust your ass all day and you're answering messages online and grumpy dickheads are talking shit on the internet like they always fucking do, and you're like, I'm fucking tired and I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I love my shop. I fucking love my shop. I spend probably almost as much time at my shop as I do my house. I bet it's a pretty close fucking ratio. I am there on average 10, 12 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. And shit's badass. I got a bunch of really cool tools. Everybody that works for me is like my homie. I fucking love them all. They're awesome. It's a great energy at the shop. Everybody's having a good time. And we work hard. But if I get there at 6 a.m. and it's fucking rounding 5, 6, 7 p.m. and I'm like, I can get the fuck out of here, man. This is not realistic. I'm done looking at this computer screen, or I'm done watching this CNC run or anything else. So you got to call it a day. And you're like, man, I really wanted to work on that thing for me. I wanted to build that set of A-pillars for my truck. I was going to do those before I left. I'm like, fuck me. I'm going home. I'm going to go to bed. That's what I want to do for me right now. I'm going to go and hang out with my wife and watch a movie and then crash out. And
that's it. I mean, that's why like the Tahoe will go months without being touched. The Nitro hasn't had a windshield in it in 4 months.
Yeah.
And we just haven't. We haven't had time to touch it.
We could have been done with it by now, but we're not. Fuck it. Who cares? There it is.
I mean, but like I said, as things slowly come together for it, it gets to the point where, all right, well, all these things are coming together. We need to go ahead and get it done. Like, the dual alternator bracket for a Dodge Nitro. There's only like 6, and we finally have one. And now we're waiting for an alternator from John, and we're waiting for this, waiting for that, and we finally got confirmation on sponsorship stuff for some equipment in it for next year. And like stuff's finally getting going, but it's been sitting for 6 months.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I know about that.
I think it's the relationships. Like once you get into, like where we're at, and I tell people this a lot, is that we can all be friends. We don't have to you don't have to be on a separate line. Like, we're all in the same stadium here on the same grass doing the same thing. People come across, well, are you gonna be mad if I buy DD or if I buy Sundown or if I don't buy your product? No, dude. I think they're great companies. You want to run Kicker, dude. If you want it and you can afford it, you should absolutely do that.
But you can't buy Scar.
I agree.
That's not allowed.
Can you please not run fucking Scar? Fuck.
Yeah, please don't do that. There are a million better things. Like you can buy
Just leave car audio. Just leave car audio.
Dude, Scar.
It's kind of amazing how big Scar is.
Dude, they spend more on marketing.
Dude, if you search Sundown Audio, it's Scar's first result.
Look, our community, we bash Scar. When you get outside of our community to just the everyday guy that's got a 12 in the trunk, it's like 50% of them have fucking Scars. It's freaking insane, dude.
My uncle was telling me a story about how, he's working at a new place and there's like a shop guy, and he pulled in and he had some bait in his vehicle, and he was like, yeah, Then he was like, like talking to my uncle for a bit. And he's like, what do you got in there? And he's like, I got all Scar. And he was proud as fuck. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And he's like, what? Wow, what's
it's up? Weird. It's like, that side of the.
And he's like, well,
No, the people that run Scar, that side of the community that isn't like our side, they think it's the best shit there is. Like they've done a really good job.
Then again, they don't know better,
But they even still think it's
the guy across the street has a big Scar sticker on his truck, and I'm 50-50 if he even knows that we're here, because he's like on a cross street, like, so he doesn't ever come by the house. I can see him over the fence, pull in, boo 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 every day. He's got a big old Scar sticker. I'm just like, I wonder if he knows. And my brother's like, he's got to, right? I'm like,
how many times do people search and they're like, somebody said Sundown, right? Sundowner, and they're all Sundowner.
Scar.
And it's all
and it looks
Scar, and they're all maybe that's what it is. And then they're all
and it's like I don't want to like tell the person running Scar who isn't big in the community that their shit isn't that great. I don't want to tell the kid across the street, yo, man, that shit that you saved up to buy, trash.
Right.
But that's
it's just crazy, like how much of a market share these guys have.
It's huge
of that other side of just the everyday base head. Like
but here's the thing.
Well, it's marketing.
Here's the thing.
It is. Yeah, they did a great job. I'm not going to knock it.
They'll be fucking super duper difficult. Whiny ass customers will argue. It's the same thing, and I'm like, it's not.
Dude, magnets is magnets, dog.
Rubber
is rubber.
This shit said weighs 74 pounds, bro. It's 2,500 watts, 74 pounds. Why? It's exactly. It's made in the same factory in China as it's the exact same thing as the sun.
And for me,
I'm like,
I don't even dislike the product that much. Like, it's not that great, but there's
worse things out there.
It is.
Oh,
I find it comical how I find it comical how universal the hate is for Kevin among business owners who aren't Kevin.
Dude, and so that's the thing, is that Kevin has the right friends and people that have backed him and his company. And like, I can't hate on what they're doing. It's not Rockville. What's another one of the Boss? I remember I met the owner of Boss, and he had rented out the entire top floor. This was at CES.
Oh yeah, they got big money. Big money.
Dude, he rented out.
They were the biggest at one time.
Yeah, he rented out the entire top floor of the hotel that's there at SEMA. What's the hotel?
Well, it was the Hilton back then, and now it's the Westin or the Westfield or something.
The Westgate. Yeah, he had the entire floor of the Westgate and had a whole product display and everything up there, and he's walking around, he's got, fucking necklace on and everything else, and I'm like, damn, and somebody was like, that's the owner of Boss, and I'm like, fuck. Like, I didn't know that 46
stuff like that
were like doing that good.
I wish the average base head I wish like the average base head
must be nice in him and shit.
Yeah, get on like, I know people got hell of money, but that Boss guy was fucking doing it.
I wish the average base head could see like stuff like that, because they think that Scar or Sundown or whoever are like, oh, they're the biggest companies in car audio. Bro, Boss Audio's paper toilet budget could buy Scar.
I always
they have paper toilets.
You know what, toilet paper. You know what I mean. Toilet paper. So let me talk about this dude. Let me talk about this dude real quick, bro. He was beating on those subs at barbecue all weekend, and then blew it up like Sunday. Normally, if I blow something up on Sunday, you might call that a rat dog. You might as well just shut the door. Time to go home. He's out there with an impact, taking the truck apart, trying to fix it. And bro, it is Sunday at like 3. Stop it. Put that shit up.
So the funny thing is that he's running the B2 Riot 7500s in there. And I have had customers, dude, it was bad out of the box. It failed after a day. Dude,
and then you guys like him who like had them on fire, but they keep going.
You couldn't even touch them. Like, I came over there, I was like, Tony, that's too much, man. Like, and they're in the beating sun, and he's just hammering on them all day. And he's done that multiple times. And I'm like, and people have these problems. I'm like, what are these people doing? What are they doing to these things? Because Tony is abusing them to the point that it's bad and has not broken one. Like,
so whenever he finally broke his sub, he said that was over 40 hours of playing, just like he was at the show. And it's like, dude,
that's an M series Trinity, like mid-level $400 sub.
Dude,
like,
I got a demo in the back of that truck, and I leaned in to look through the port. He stroking, working them things. You pull them out, and you were there. I go to push on it. I'm like, dude, this is not. How long have you played these for? He's like, I was like 40 hours.
What's really funny is that they have a round wound voice coil on them. They're not a flat wound voice coil on the M series, and people are like, "Wow, And it was funny because I think you were there, Bobby, when Jake from Sundown started talking about the surface area differences between a flat wound and round wound, and just like really got it, because Jake is one of like the smartest people when it comes to car audio. Like, he gets it, and he understands sound to a level that I don't. I don't have the level of knowledge that Jake does from Sundown. He is a fantastic engineer. He's probably one of the smartest people that I know when it comes to audio and speaker design. And he was just giving all the Sky High guys like this rundown on the difference between round wound versus flat wound and this, the whole 9 yards. And they're like, damn, I didn't know that you could get that out of a flat wound coil or out of a round wound coil. And it's like, sometimes you don't know until you put it in an application, and them Trinity subs have been killing it. They're doing fantastic. There's been almost no failures on them. Like
that's actually one thing that John said when I was there. He's like, we haven't had any fail. Like one had an issue, and instead of he hawing with the customer because it's more likely customer, he just replaced it because it had no failures. So they hadn't gotten into any of their warranty stock at all.
Things happen, but. No, they've been pretty fantastic.
But
Jules and Sundown, B2 is another I've been looking at. Honestly,
the new kicker subs are going to be badass.
The Flex and
they're gonna.
I'm not. Obviously, I run B2. I'm pretty heavily invested into B2 audio, and I would love it. I love it. You want to buy our subwoofers, absolutely. But I always say that. As long as you buy something, you want to buy Gateway audio subs because you like Bobby, you like what he does, and you want to buy them over B2 audio subs. Absolutely, that's a great deal. Do it, buy them. Because maybe down the road you'll still be my customer. Maybe you'll buy something from me. But as long as you're in the industry, you're in it. Buy DD, buy Sundown, buy Kicker, buy
doing something
buy
in car
Gateway.
audio. Have at it, man.
Right,
Yep,
like just
don't buy fucking Scar.
Just don't Scar.
Yeah.
I agree. We're all in the same boat, man.
Right, and like we can all be friends. There's like this hater and this animosity sometimes, and people are they're so negative, and it's like
it's get way like more on the
bashes.
When you get all the owners together and like people that are maybe administration or whatever. There's none of that. We all love each other. We all hang out. There's no brand bashing. We don't give a shit. It's just like it just seems to be like what you run. It's kind of that. What's that word I'm looking for?
Camaraderie?
No. It's a mentality. It's like
gang mentality.
It's like whatever you run,
Yeah.
Gang, bang, bang.
You mentioned about like the owners. So the first year that Nick Hutchinson came to Semology, dude, like nobody knew him. He was very, very green. And Jake was with us. So Bobby, you remember the picture that is me, you, and Max and Jay and all the people that we were at when we were at the hotel at Semology like 4 years ago.
Yes.
And you had a clean shaven face and you looked like you're 14 years old. So that same night, just very shortly after that, Jake was walking with us and Nick was sitting there with his buddy. And I stopped. I'm like, Jake, have you met Nick Hutchinson? And Nick was like, oh my God, like this is Jake from Sundown. And Jake sat there and handed me like 20 minutes. He's like, hey man, I see what you're doing. It's great. From a business perspective, I think that you should, and he was just like really giving him some like business tips and he was just very helpful. And, Nick messaged me after, it's probably the next day. He's like, I really appreciate you introducing me to Jake. I didn't think that he would be that like forthcoming, and just be willing to help. And like, yeah, I think you're doing great stuff here, this, you're that. And, Jake's not like, oh, you're the competition. I hate you, blah, 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 blah.
It's the opposite among most companies.
Yes, exactly. Companies. Just like when we had the kicker meeting.
Dude, I was literally just thinking about Vegas.
It was a show. It wasn't last year. It was the year before.
It was the 20. It was 20. CES 2020.
Was that with John in the open bar?
Yeah, I mean, you got Sky High owner in there. You got the Limitless owners in there. You got Jake from Sky or Sundown in there. There's so many people in there that are in the industry that could steal whatever technology Kicker's presenting to us. That is, we all have to sign our NDAs, but they don't. It's not like that. It's like so much more of a community up top than people think. It's so much less competition. Yeah, every company wants people to run their stuff, but at the end of the day, like you're saying, Andrew, it's about the community. It's about bringing the whole industry up. The more people that run any car audio, the better it is for all of us.
Well, and it's really amazing to me that I've been in car audio. I mean, ever since I was like just a kid. I was throwing stereo in and doing all this stuff. And Bobby and I were talking about this the other day. It's like if you look back at when we were nobodies, and we're looking at like all these people on the competition level, and the people that are doing stuff back in the 90s, and it's like you think about it now, and we are those people. Like our group and the stuff that we're doing, like we have ascended to that level, and like we have those builds, the stuff Bobby's doing, and like we're those people, and it's like, wow, it's like there's a whole generation of people that are just kind of coming into it, and we're at the top of that level, so to speak. And it's just it's very humbling.
Me and my brother were having that conversation on the way back from Kicker, because we're getting back into competition, and there's going to be some help from some companies in it. And I was like, man, like 15 years ago, I was looking up to the people who were doing exactly what we're doing. Like this shit that we're doing is like old man stories, and this is crazy, dude. This is wild.
Yeah, you almost have to take
we're all
back.
We're all getting ready to go to SEMA to be at the audio experience that has never really happened. Like not at like what we're doing. That's
they
never really happened.
Legends from last year when we were like, when they were in the fucking alleyway. You guys remember when they were in the fucking alleyway?
You remember the whole building was just
like
they were flushing the toilet.
Dude, that time, I'll tell you what, when the dude in the red jacket took me inside,
dude, he was huffing down that hall, down that road.
And fucking, I look back and I see Johnny with that shit-eating grin on his fucking face. And as soon as the dude opens the door, there's a guy giving a presentation to like 50 people sitting in chairs, and it's no difference between outside and inside. It's just as fucking loud.
It's worse inside.
You can't even hear the dude giving the presentation. All you hear is
got a mic.
Turn it up. Turn it up. It's like, oh my god, dude.
That Johnny music, and he played the same song. Like
it is the
Johnny. Like, here comes
music.
Steve's in the doorway, just like.
I was like, oh my god, yeah, it's kind of loud in here. The walls are going, brah, brah, brah. I was like,
if they're not going to let us fucking play it, let's just rail these shits. They'll tell us to fuck off. We'll all leave, and it'll be done. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe let Steve talk. And John's like,
turn it up.
Four knobs. Every knob, all knobs right on that fucking handheld 4-knob bass knob thing that they had that controls that shit show. Yeah. And they are, brah, and it was, and I was like, oh, like Colt, like runs to the front of the bloodbath and covers his ears and is like hiding in front of it, waiting for him to turn it down because they know only do it for a minute or so.
Yeah, that thing was too loud.
And then Steve's like coming back out, like, hey, you got it. And it's like Johnny goes and turns it all down.
I was like, yeah, we're kicked out till Friday, so
yeah,
let's like, go do whatever.
Sounds good. I'm gonna go walk around the show.
It was me and Allison.
Well, and I
spent the day fucking around in Vegas all day Thursday. We didn't even go to SEMA. We were like, fuck it, what's the point? So
yeah,
I wonder. I actually wonder if we're gonna get to play. Darian has a video. So at the Sky High Barbecue, the truck was parked, like next to the bourbon. I had a flip flop or a crock or whatever it was, and it was floating. It was floating, and he takes this video. He's like, "You're floating a shoe in here," and I'm like, "Okay." So I really wonder, like, how long they're gonna let us play at.
I think we got a good shot.
Well, this year they know they know.
Are you working with like the same people, Steve? So the only thing is that if some wild card person,
what's up, Chris?
Comes in.
I think the only issue we'll run into is
creamer.
Is the other
it's a seat creamer.
Yeah, I think the only thing that they kind of mentioned was if we disrupt the other booths too much would kind of
aim the stunt walls the other damn direction.
So but at the same time, like we are gonna bring 5,000 people to that area.
Exactly. As soon as
you need to make sure to aim the stunt walls towards the crowd.
As soon as the shit show turns on, when it goes, turn it up, dude. Everybody's they're gonna walk.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So it was perfectly timed. Hoonigan does like their thing on like every couple hours, like on a schedule. They had just finished it, and all you hear from the fucking shit show is "Turn it up," and the entire crowd that was watching Hoonigan came down the alleyway, dude. It had to be 1,000 people packed in that alleyway.
I got off the fucking like train thing, and I could hear that thing getting off. I was a mile from it, and it's turn it up, and I'm like, holy shit! And we get down to the bottom of the escalator, and I was like, I got to do a live feed, and I like turn it on, and I'm like, can you guys hear that shit? People are like, yeah, and I'm all, it's over there, and you couldn't even fucking see it on my phone.
Dude,
and we're walking, and my video's going. I'm like, sorry, you guys are waiting fucking 7.5 minutes for me to get to this truck, and I'm walking fast, and I'm like, all right, now you can see it. We're at the end. We're more than a quarter mile away from that fucking thing, and there's vehicles in front of it, and there's a crowd of people around it, and you can hear every fucking word. It was so loud.
So,
it was like,
a couple barbecues ago, it would have been last year I don't know. It was right when Shit Show was getting kind of put back together, and Easton's out there in the shop, and he's putting DS18 subs in, and somebody said something. They're like, "You're helping them work on the Sky High DS18 van," and it's like Easton and I looked at him and we're like, "Yeah, they're my friends.
What else are we supposed to do?
I don't fucking care. I don't care that it's DS18's van. I don't care that it doesn't have B2 audio products. They're my friends."
It's John's van, or it's the
right,
Sky
you know
High
what I mean.
van.
It's got all product. It doesn't have my B2 audio stuff in it. So since it doesn't have B2, I can't fucking work on it. No, they're my friends. I spent hours at Johnny's house, garage, helping.
Before there was a B2 audio, there was a fucking Andrew that loves car audio.
No, Andrew was made.
Yeah,
in wherever B2's made. So whenever B2 was formed as a company, Andrew was also formed next door at the same time.
Yes, they just packed me with too much foam, Bobby.
Yes, the same way
I got too much foam.
I worked on that goddamn Shit Show thing with the DS18 thing, and those fucking guys like bought one of my boxes, popped a fucking mold off of that motherfucker. And so, like, it's not the DS8. It's not, I did this thing.
They were just trying to say thank you, bro. They just wanted to thank you. Dude, imitation is the biggest form of flattery.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody gave them more.
As long as they cut you a royalty check.
John's house. I said nobody gave them more shit than Bula did at John's house at the night of the barbecue. After that whole thing went down, you remember? Bula was just railing on him.
I wasn't there.
He copied my boy's shit.
I wasn't there when he did that.
You weren't sitting at the table with them, but you were there. I know you were there.
Barbecue, the recent one?
There. Oh no, it was last year.
Oh, it was last
year. It was right after that whole thing happened. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. They didn't come anywhere near me.
You don't remember?
No.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you. I'll tell you something. Like, in my younger years, I have had a few physical altercations with people in my life. My wife like frowns upon that, and she doesn't really like. She's not like, don't you be getting in a fight or anything. And I'm like, oh, and like I can tell she's like, no.
She's the nicest.
But the DS18 guy, she's like, you should beat that guy's fucking ass. And I'm like, I don't. You really shouldn't tell me that. Like, I'm fucking around. Like,
you're like, all of a sudden, I don't want to.
Yeah, like, Drew, if you think Allison's nice, Allison saved me and Bobby. She literally saved my life. It actually happened.
My wife,
by all things, over
like the harbinger of joy. She is the most amazing person I've ever met in any way, shape, or form ever. She's my favorite.
I cannot wait for her and Brandon to spend a bunch of time together.
That sounds great.
It does.
Yeah, Allison is a fantastic kid. So I was all super hungover at the CES Showdown. Wow. And Bobby was there, and I've got this horrible headache, and I'm just like, I'm dehydrated, and Allison comes over. She's like, "Are you okay? Do you need some? Do you want something to drink? Do you want some Tylenol? Do you want?" And I'm like, no. And then she disappears. Dude, she walked. Do you remember where we were at, Steve? She walked to the gas station, like across the way,
and got the Tylenol and shit for you guys.
And dude, she comes back with like Gatorade, and she's got ibuprofen, and she's like, "Okay, I got you this. And you should really drink some of this water." And I'm like, damn, like, I'm not used to people being like that. No, she's Allison is an amazing person.
Yeah. So, and then when we were her
contact in my phone. Yeah. Bobby almost perished. Almost perished.
I almost fucking died. So, Halloween, 2 years ago, I'm drinking with John,
That's a lot of dude to be drinking with, and you're not a lot of guy to be drinking with him.
And I'm like I'm a little guy and I'm a lightweight. So I'm like 2 fucking beer Bob, and I'm drinking moonshine with John Rabby.
Hey, good thing they didn't put no caffeine in there, bud.
I was drunk, and I'm
Bro,
like,
I want to see Bobby on the Red Bull vodkas.
Oh fuck!
Like baby bird drunk,
bombs,
baby bird drunk, dude. And then we get in John's side by side, and we're gonna go to some spot to hang out and like look down on the bonfires and whatever, and like a cool spot. And we're all driving up there, and we have a fucking head-on collision with another side by side, and we hit boom, and the other guy turns the lights on. And we climb out of the side by side, and I am like, Jesus, I am so fucking drunk. And the guy that was driving that side by side gets out and is so drunk he fucking falls on his face. We're looking over his side by side, and his shit is totaled. I'm like, that thing is fucking ruined. And I look over John's, and John's has got like a little, like his headlight thing is bent a little bit, but otherwise his super stout custom built frame assembly is solid. We drive out, we hang out, we go back down, and we get to camp, and everybody's like going to bed, and I'm like, I can't go to bed. I'm fucking hammered. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna chug a bunch of water, and then I'm gonna puke, and I chug, and then I barf, and then I go over to the bonfire, and I throw a couple big old logs on it, and I get a bunch of coals, and I put them underneath my seat, and I sit down, and I'm like, cool. And then I wake up, and that fire had burned itself all the way out. It wasn't even glowing fucking red anymore. I'd probably been sleeping for 3 hours, and I was shivering, like shuddering, like I was like fucking freezing to death. And I'm covered in sand. I was in a head-on collision in a side-by-side on the sand. And I go inside the the fucking trailer, and it's freezing ass cold. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Like, I'm fucking freezing in there. Dude. And I'm like climbing into the bed, and Allison's like, babe, you're all covered in sand. Take her. And I'm all, no, I'm fucking freezing. And she's like, oh my God, you are freezing. And she warms me up because she loves me. I'm covered in fucking sand. And then like I wake up and I get my sandy ass clothes off, and I fucking like, and it's freezing. And then Andrew wakes up, and he's like sweating and dying. Dude,
I'm like,
and as soon as he moves, it suddenly starts getting way warmer in the trailer.
Yeah.
Let's
no, bud, don't tell me.
What are you on the heater?
He covered the fucking heat vent, the whole ass heat vent.
Rewind 30 minutes, okay? I'm also super not fucking okay drunk, and I fall asleep, right? And they decided to go on a ride. So John comes over and he shakes me. He's like, "Wake up!" And he's all like crazy and shit.
Oh,
and
Johnny?
Like, no, like
John.
No, that was John.
Oh,
and I was,
when you were in the chair, right? John, when you barfed. Yes, John, I remember that.
John shook me up, and I'm like, I'm not okay. Blah! And I'm just
okay,
projectile vomiting. Blah! Like. And Amanda is sitting there looking at me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I think I'm gonna be like I puked my life out." And she's like, "Andrew, it's time to go to bed." And I'm like, "I don't even know where I'm sleeping." And she's like, "I will take you there." And I'm like, "Okay." So she walks me over to the camper, and she's like, "Oh, hold on a minute." And she goes to her camper, and she gets this giant comforter. It's massive. It's like for gargantuan people like John. It had to be 7 by 7. It's like 7 foot by 7 foot. This massive comforter, and she's carrying it over like this massive thing. She's waddling through the sand, and she gets up to the deal, and she looks at me. She says, "This is from my wedding, and if you puke on it, I will kill you."
But she should just take that back to her camper.
And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm okay. All right, and I go and she like lays me down, and she like tucks me in with this massive throw blanket. Well, in Johnny's camper, where there's Bobby and Allie from Halloween. I sent him that picture. So where the couch is that I'm sleeping on is right next to the cabinet, and it's a big toy hauler, and there's only one vent for the furnace. Well, when Amanda covered me up, she threw this massive thing on me, and I passed out.
And went over the heater.
Bobby woke me up, and I'm like, oh, I'm not kidding. Like, I pulled it off, and I was steaming. Like I was literally steaming. I had taken all that heat, and I was super drunk, and I was passed out, and I was soaked. Like I had taken a shower. I thought I was gonna die. And this really ties into the next day. But I take this blanket off, and you can see the heat like fill the trailer. It was ridiculous, and my skin was steaming. I was so hot. Like it was well over 100 degrees, like under this massive.
You're fucking cooking yourself.
Everything, you know,
I was already
medium rare.
It's
so
like,
he's
dude, Amanda
burning
tried
himself
to
up, and I'm freezing myself to death.
Dude, yeah, Bobby's on the other opposite side, and he comes in, and I wake up, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" And then I hear Allison like, "Here, let's get this off," and Bobby's like, "I'm not in the mood," and he's shaking because she was trying to do
I'm not in the mood because I would have been down. She would have definitely not been doing no hanky panky in a trailer full of people. But if she was in, I'm in. For 100% of the time, I will not tell her no.
So the next day, Bobby and I are
dead,
like hung over to a point.
It was the worst hangover
unhealthy.
I've ever had.
Same.
I had a beer at like
was
noon,
so dehydrated.
and it like kind of helped, and I was like,
dude, we kept trying to get up and like go. We're like, all of our friends are out having fun at Sand Mountain, and we're both like roofie level fucking dead. And I try to get out. I'm like, I think I'm doing okay. And I'm like, I'm not okay. I got to go lay back down. And Allison comes over. She's like, boys, would you like a sandwich? And I looked at her, and I'm just like,
sure.
That would absolutely change my life right now. So she did. She went through all the stuff. She made Bobby and I sandwiches and literally saved my life. That happened.
So Allison, that was a rough day. And then that was actually the day of Halloween. And like I didn't start coming around to be like actually functional until it was getting dark. And once that point, then I'm all right.
Was that a Dumont?
No, it was at Sand Mountain.
Where's that?
Yeah, Sand Mountain,
outside of Reno, about 2 hours, 3 hours.
You head just past Fallon, and it's a giant 800-foot tall mountain
of sand.
Made out of sand.
So I think the closest thing to go Sand Mountain. Gotcha. I tell you, you haven't experienced life until you've polished off an entire bottle of moonshine and then rode with John while he rides the ridge at Sand Mountain. Like, then
I will. Hoping to experience that eventually here soon. We have to make one of these trips with you guys.
Man, that was a crazy weekend. Like, at least 2 people died.
Dude. Yeah, 2 people died
on Halloween. Came out there, and everybody was like, "We're not going up on the hill. We're not going out there."
Well, it was Mercedes' birthday party too. So we had Mercedes' birthday party on Halloween. Mercedes, John's Mercedes, John and Amanda.
Yep.
That was her 14th birthday party.
Side note, did you see that 16th birthday party she had?
I was supposed to go, and we didn't have it in the calendar, and I'm a fucking moron, and I'm like,
I thought that was clips from the TV show.
Might as well be, right? My Sweet 16.
Man.
God damn.
When Amanda does something, man, she don't fuck around. Like,
yeah, she don't fucking play.
Like, dude, she does it.
Amanda's like the fucking boss lady, dude. We after Korean.
We go camping,
dude. She
go camping.
Takes care of business, bro. She don't fuck around.
The guys go camping, right? Where it's like throwing some fucking meat sticks and some crackers, and like we'll be good. And she comes out there, she's like, "Yeah, I'm making roast." What? You're making a roast?
Like, how do you even plan far enough ahead to make a roast?
She's gonna make a roast for like 40 people. Like she's gonna feed all.
She started a week ago. Here. She didn't even know that event was happening.
Dude, like
I'm guessing this is
at 10.
I'm guessing that's Skylar. Skylar, dude, you have time to still buy plane tickets.
Are you Facebook user?
Out, bro.
Plane tickets are hella cheap, man.
Skylar, I bought plane tickets yesterday.
You could fucking stay at
we
my
bought
house,
plane
bro.
tickets the day before yesterday for my tech and his wife. And
now finding a hotel may be harder.
Like that's going to be $300 total for both of their flights there and back.
Oh no, mine was my flight was 170, but then to add a carry-on to bring the max was another 150. I was like, bro, it's just another plane ticket to bring the fucking max.
Yeah, Vegas is super cheap to fly to.
Should have just bought another plane ticket.
Really has.
Dude, I could have just bought another plane ticket and just like for the name put max.
Yeah, so this is
right.
Just set it next to you.
Dude, so hotels were the biggest pain. Finding a hotel, like
What days are you staying, Drew? What days are you going to be there?
Currently it's Thursday through Thursday through, coming in late. But so like I couldn't find a hotel, and I was like, damn it! I couldn't find anything close that wasn't $1,000 a night. I was like, I bet. I was talking to Travis. Travis said, Kicker's probably got a block of rooms. I was like, well, you got an idea on you, son. Yeah, Kicker has rooms.
We scheduled. We have what is it called? The Westgate. We got rooms. I got our room in the Westgate like 9 months ago, and it wasn't very expensive at all. But I'm like, dude, I've never stayed in the fucking place that's connected to SEMA, so that's kind of cool. It's nice. The first time we're doing that, and it wasn't very expensive at all because we were way ahead of the game. I think it was like $380 a night, but I don't have to pay for any lift rides. If I want to take a dump midday, I can go to my hotel room. You know what I mean?
I think we're the Orleans. I think it is cheap. It's like a third of what you just said.
Dude,
I think Kicker's got one of my favorite places.
Yeah, but Kicker's like, we want the top half of the building, the whole thing.
They've been going to Orleans for like 20 years.
What? So it's been a while.
I mean, and the only reason I was even going to the actual the SEMA convention is just to see the Bronco in the booth. That's it.
Dude,
that's the only reason.
The funny story about the Orleans. So I was staying at the Orleans. This is a few years back. Maybe it was the year before COVID. Yeah.
That when we went bowling.
Sundown U's come with the gasket to go underneath the hard part.
Yeah, we didn't go bowling. We went golfing.
Top golf.
Remember?
No, we went bowling one time at the Orleans. They're the ones that have the bowling alley at the top, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, anyways, I'm walking through the Orleans, and I don't remember what it was. I went and got cash. I was going to go to this machine, and there's an Applebee's there, and it's kind of like on a raised. You've been to an Applebee's inside of the Orleans. It's like on a raised deal, and they have seating out there. And I'm walking, and I got a notification from my phone, and I was like, "Well, what the fuck?" And I'm looking at it, and somebody smacks me in the back of the head. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And I turned around, and it was Steve Mead eating at Applebee's with his wife. And he smacked me in the fucking head, and I turned around like ready to throw down, and he's like, "What's up, dude?" And I'm like, I didn't think I'd run into you and the wife here at fucking Applebee's in the Orleans in Vegas. I was like, I didn't even think you were coming.
Somewhere, bud.
Like, dude, yeah, Steve Mead smacks me in the fucking head while we're at the Orleans. That was pretty funny.
Actually, the first time I met Steve was in Vegas. Him and Cypher at a restaurant eating at like the bottom floor at a CES event or something. I was like, oh look, like I knew Cypher at that point, but. I was like, look at that. That was the same year where audio control. We were standing in the audio control booth, and it was me and John Robbie and Steve Mead. And is there going to be an audio control booth at SEMA?
Always.
I don't know if they're going or not.
Or if they are, I want to fist fight their customer service manager and their whoever writes their software. I'm going to fist fight them both in the booth.
I'm not going to disagree.
We're going to call you back. Narrator, they did not.
They've actually had very good customer service for us normally.
I've had pretty good luck.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, do you know how to mute individual channels on a DM810?
How to mute individual channels?
There.
How do you mute individual channels in the software?
We just were doing it yesterday when we were fixing shit in there. And you can do it. It's just weird.
Oh no, we figured it out, but it took 3 of us 45 minutes to figure out how to mute individual channels.
Well, I went to their booth during SEMA a few years ago. I was running one of their line drivers, and one channel was almost a whole volt outside of the other. And I went and asked them if this is going to be an issue, and the guy's like, "Oh no problem, dude." I'm like, "You're fucking on crack. I'm never running audio control shit again." So. I know you love their stuff, Bobby, and I'm sure they make good stuff. But if your guy at SEMA can't I want their
load things. Those things are awesome.
Between left and right is not a problem.
Load thing?
Yeah, they're like load simulator things for newer vehicles that have amplifiers.
They're pretty cool. The little dongles.
The balancers. So
their software made me want to punch a baby. But some of the features they have are pretty awesome, like the incoming RTA for the signal. If I'd have known that was a thing, that would have saved us a bunch of headache on Eric's truck.
Oh yes.
So we're standing there at the audio control booth. My short story here. Me, John, Steve Mead, somebody else was there, and we're talking, and we're just kind of talking back and forth. And I hear someone talking. I'm like, I fucking know. And we look over, and it's Rick from Pawn Stars. And he sees us. He comes over. He's like, "Hi, I'm Rick." And he shook all of our hands. And it was like, "Fuck, okay." And then he just went along his way. I was like, "That was Rick from Pawn Stars." I think you were there, Steve.
Probably.
Weren't you there with us? I think because you and Travis were there. I'm pretty sure you were standing there with us when Rick was there. But anyways,
probably I don't know.
Yeah, audio control software. I told him, I was like, so when I was last year at SEMA, I asked him, I was like, so I run a Mac and I use your software for Mac, but when I start the application, it takes my processor and goes to 100% all the way. 100%, and it just stays there. Like my laptop gets really fucking hot, and my battery goes to shit really quick. Really, we didn't know about that. No, they knew about it, and they still haven't fixed it. Like you run it in Windows, it's fine. Run on a Mac, 100%.
No, I just didn't like where some of the things were hidden in the software. Like not hidden, but they weren't as intuitive as I think it should have been. But like so some of the features it had were really awesome. If I'd have known about it, like I was chasing a lack of high end in Eric's truck for like an hour, couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, man, the RTA software shows incoming signal. Hold on, let me go look at something. And sure enough, it was missing the whole like 10K and up signal. I was like, damn it, this one source wasn't plugged in right. That's the whole time. It wasn't getting the signal. But if I'd have known that the software had that, I wouldn't have fought it for an hour.
I think doing DSPs and doing a lot of like the higher end audio stuff is extremely complicated. We've tried to do a few different DSPs, and we've had lots of problems with software and other stupid little things. And I think it really takes a filter
on or something. That was weird. Sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
Chris Russ had messaged me with a picture of the screen. I look orange, so I'm like, hold on, let me adjust some stuff.
Yeah, what the fuck are we looking at? Yeah.
I think that Alpine.
Steve's like putting it away as he comes around the corner. Just tucking it in.
Just leave it out. Yeah. No monster.
All right, sorry, Andrew. Sorry.
I think doing DSPs and shit is hard. I think that there's a couple companies that do really well. I like Alpine's DSP. The newer ones that I've been playing with, I think are pretty okay. I've had some problems with the audio controls. The biggest problem I have is the fucking thing stays on and drains the life out of the van. The one that we have in the van, dude, like it is properly wired and it fucking stays on and drains the battery.
Everyone just needs to get some JL tweaks, and I'll come over and I'll get your shit right.
I don't want that.
I can't hear Steve because I'm sure he's saying something silly.
Yeah,
I was going to say, speaking of coming over, you're not going to be here till Thursday, Friday. Oh, whatever. Maybe you'll get your hands on the Explorer. We'll see. It should sound pretty good, anyways. But see
what how drivable is the Explorer,
bro? I'm using a Kicker EQ35 or 35 EQ. What are the fuck's on? I need to run a DSP.
I'll pay you $1 to not.
No, dude, it sounds way better with it because it's a line driver. I need the output because I'm just running iPad. So
pay you $1 to not.
Why? Sounds good. I think it sounds good.
Just because DSP, bro.
I ain't got time for no DSP
dude,
now.
I think that
I'm barely gonna get a plan.
If I can make Price's truck sound the best it's ever sounded, come on.
I think every build gets the DSP. Everyone,
it's getting one.
Like put
it's 100% getting
everything.
Price's Tahoe got 2.
Not yet. I'm holding out for the.
One time I had 5 in the Bourbon.
There's a you know Savard Audio. They have an Excursion with 4.
I had 5, yeah.
Now you have 1 810.
So yeah, I have 1 810 running everything now. But remember, I had 12 amps, so I had to get all these outputs. So and I had 3 amps in the seat, and then I had an amp under the seat, and then I had the 12 amplifiers in the back, and I was going to time align all of them, and I had this like thing in my head. Fucking don't do that. Okay. I could gain a lot by time aligning, but it fucking. I'm running 6 amps right now, and you're not time aligning them because you're doing pairs.
The way you have it now.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
I could gain maybe a little bit. I'm pretty sure.
I can see phase in real time, sir. I can do it.
The phase is fine.
You better change your flight to earlier than Thursday, dog.
You can take my 4-channel O-scope and look at phase.
Not electrical phase, acoustical phase.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see.
I would agree. I could gain.
So I think I'm gonna buy a Max, Drew. You talked me into it, and I'm like, if I have it, we can use it. Colt keeps asking for it, and I'm like, if you're excited to use a tool, then I'll buy it, and you can use it. And I'm happy to play with it as well. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun, and that way, like when you come out to SAC or even Reno, you won't have to tote yours along with you. You'll be able to just use ours.
That'd be lovely.
Yep.
I'm trying to find the pictures I
posted.
You
just ship it to me, Drew. It'll be a lot less expensive.
I looked it up. It'd be like $70 to $80 to ship it the way I want, and I'd have to ship it like tomorrow.
No, I thought if you use ship.
So Rhonda asked me about why did I pick
you use like somebody that has a shipping account, Drew. It'd be like half that.
I'll get that shit over here for $10, 2 days.
I'll just carry
maybe he means 35, but yeah.
It's okay.
No. Cubic rate, under 20 pounds, $10 all day, every day, 2 days.
Okay. So Steve, tomorrow I'm going to drill your windshield stuff, and Sweet. I'm going to laser some ring pieces for Andrew's, the Suburban that he needs for his subwoofers. And then I'm going to pack that shit up. I think Andrew, well, I suppose yours don't.
It'd be easier for you to just ship it. Me?
You want to ship it all to me? You can ship it all to me.
You have to have them by Saturday. So he'll ship his fast, and then you can make a label for yours. And he has his own shipping account. And we'll just ship them separate because
I'm confused. Who's he when you
Andrew?
Say he?
Me.
Okay.
Me.
He needs.
So Andrew's going to make a label.
I have catastrophe.
He's going to make a label for his because they only are going to weigh like 2 fucking pounds. But your windshield is going to weigh like 60 pounds.
Okay. I can make a label for that. Yeah. $10.
But you won't be in as much of a hurry as he will be. He needs his to be like overnighted. So his you know what I mean? Like you don't want to do an overnight fucking 70-pound package.
Well, dude, if you have them done tomorrow, I could send you a label that's under cubic rate. You could ship it all to me for like $11, and it'll be here in 2 days.
Okay, well, I'll touch base with you
hit me up tomorrow
morning.
Yeah, hit me up tomorrow.
I just have to. The plastic supplier delivering all of my plastic tomorrow morning, and as soon as it arrives, I'll have a technician, stick that template on there and drill those holes all out. And that's all we really need to do, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as long as it's the same size, that's the size it needs to be with the holes.
I already had them cut those dimensions because it made it easier for me.
Perfect. The acoustical phase chart that we're looking at here.
Yeah. So this
we actually time aligned Darian's build while we were at Slam a couple years ago, and then went back and retuned it and gained like almost a dB off of just time aligning the
100%.
This is prices. Well, before I touched it, this top line is the third row. That's 20 degrees out of phase here, and it's like 20. It's like 19, 18 here, and then this is the front row down here coming out of phase in the 25 hertz range.
But you can because his are 3, 3, and 3, right?
Yep.
On one amplifier per 3 or what?
No, it's
I don't remember.
Every sub has an amp. I had to order a special distribution box to be able to control 3 amps at a time.
So right now with the Bourbon, why I'm saying I can't do that is because I'm 2, 2, and 2, and 2, 2, and 2. If that makes sense. So my front 3. So if you're looking at it, right, you have the front 3 subwoofers.
So you're like front to back,
front
instead
subwoofer,
of side to side.
So right, because you would be 2 and then like 2 then 2. So instead of doing that, I'm in 2, 2, and 2, and then 2, 2, and 2 between the 6 amplifiers. So you could kind of align it, but not.
Yeah, you just have to
be worth it.
Yeah, so your front 3 subs are all on different channels, basically. They're kind of, is that what you're saying?
Which is fine technically.
Correct.
Yeah.
But so this is what we ended up with, and this is not just time. This is also crossover changes. To get the 20 hertz to line up, I had to change all 3 crossover slopes on the low end. One of them just didn't have a subsonic, and that's what it took to get that in line. And this was 3 different.
Well, and that's the thing is that if you set that crossover at 12 dB per octave at 20 hertz, it's not fucking like you're depending on where your crossover is. A lot of people don't understand it. I think you should do a whole ass show on crossover points and what a dB per octave means, like a 6 dB, a 12 dB, an 18 dB, and the difference between like a link width and a butter. You know what I mean? Like you can have a whole ass conversation on that. And there's been
get someone far more educated than us in it, like convince Mark Eldridge to come on and talk about it or something.
Jeffrey would be good. I think
Jeff
could come on and talk about it with you.
100%.
So, and I mean, I've known Jeffrey for years and years and years, and he used to do a bunch of like, if we had a new speaker coming out, I would send it to Jeff. Hey, dude, let me know how you like this. Test it, see what it does, etc., etc. And he's always kind of been a really good go-to source for tuning and questions, and he's super awesome, nice guy.
I'm in a group chat with him and Matt Mergenthal from JL, and they're just a wealth of amazing information between them. And then Dan Merritt and I talk pretty often, dude. Just so much information and the knowledge available. It's insane.
It gets really into it, and I don't know that it's like we have us basics, and then me and Bobby and the sound quality people. Some of them are just so mean. There's a lot of the bass head people that are kind of like standoffish, but man, some of the sound quality people are just like.
You just have to get in with the right.
I don't even know who they are. That's
like the guys that like.
Can I get a demo?
They're all great.
Remember that, Bobby? Can I get a demo? No.
No, you just have to get in with. You just got to be in like You just got to find the right group because you're going to find that in bass too. You're going to find groups of people who just kind of suck. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's true.
I can.
And maybe had I found the right guy that day at Surf, that first couple guys that I asked for demos. Because I was like, God, that made me feel weird. He was not interested, and I just didn't even bother going back over into that area.
But if the first guy you would have ran into was Jeffrey,
cool.
You'd have a completely different outlook.
And it would have blown my mind, and I would.
Jeffrey would have turned on the SPL tune for you and done a 140 at 22 hertz or whatever the hell that car can do.
Yeah, like that's how my SQ
at Surf this year. I got the best SQ demo I ever had. And what's funny about it, it was from the same guy that had given me a demo at a seminar years before that I had been super disappointed with. And it was awesome. And it was loud. And he got in trouble because somebody else was being judged. And he had like went in and beep-a-boppled and made it so that it could play louder for me. He's like, it'll still be clean and loud and perfect here, but just normally I don't bring it up this loud at all. So I have to make this change to do that. And he did it. And it was fucking badass. And it sounded amazing. I wish I could remember that guy's name. It's a silver Mercedes. And it was fucking beautiful. It sounded outstanding. And I had a really good time with that. It was super cool.
Do you remember what equipment he was running?
It was all Dyne Audio. He had fucking tweeters that were they were 6-inch fucking tweeters with a little crisscross, and then next to it was like an identical size with like and it was like a 5 1/4 next to it because the outside mounting was so big, and it was pretty wild. And then he had 10-inch mid bass drivers that were
infinite baffle in the kicks.
Infinite baffle, and then he had 312 subwoofers that were also infinite baffle.
Nice.
I just asked the group chat who it was. I have an answer in a second.
Dude, some of them infinite baffle builds, like Hank's Slam, dude, that thing was outrageous.
Insane.
Yeah, that shit was wild.
Cold air demos.
I've never seen anybody do.
Well, the weirdest thing was walking up to it and having it be windy and cold. was like cold. It was like, ooh, what the fuck? It's blowing cold. And it wasn't like it was so cold that it made me cold. It was so fucking weird that it wasn't blowing hot air like most windy builds do.
Yeah.
It was cold because all that cold metal, it was wild. So
yeah, the first loud IB build I ever heard was a local dude has 2 IB-18s in the back of his Jeep, and he does like a 130 10 feet behind it whenever he's really railing on it. I was like, bro, your neighbors have got to hate when you're tuning something because you're just flexing the neighborhood.
When Hank's out there and those things were moving, I was like, oh my God, dude, those things are getting it. Like, that's a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah. We were fortunate enough to have Hank park at our booth at Slam on Saturday and just hand out demo.
Bro, what does Hank even know about bass? Like, for real? Like, who even is Hank? Hank's not even real, I don't think. Did y'all see the shit
creature? This Hank
in the Kicker Club?
Dude, so there's this story.
No,
there's a story about Slamology a couple years ago with Hank. He comes over, so they got the thing.
What?
He was driving.
I don't know if you should tell this story to the world.
You got spread ass cheeks and
you tell this on the OnlyFans, bro.
Dude. So Hank's driving the bread truck around Slam, right? And there's all these people drinking moonshine in the back of it, and he fucking pulls up to the booth. And he just drives. He's like, "Where the fuck is John Rabe?" And I'm like looking at him like, I don't know. He's like, where the fuck is he? And he like drags John out. He's like, get in, motherfucker. And John just like, okay, just like leaves the booth and just goes fucking off. And he's gone for like an hour. And at some point, I can't remember if you were with him, Bobby, or not, but John drank like the rest of the moonshine and something else and then ended up walking back. But Hank just like randomly out of the blue, he's like, John, you're coming with me. And they jump on the bread truck and they just go carting off. And all these people are asking, like, do you know where John went? I'm like, I don't. They're like, his phone's here. I'm like, I don't fucking know.
He'll show back
got
up.
On the bread truck with Hank, and
he's on an adventure with Hank.
Dude,
I drank the moonshine with John on Friday at Slam 2018, 19, whatever it was. Yeah. That was my
the moonshine in our group doesn't like, always go bad.
I'm good.
Dude,
bro.
that's one thing about
White Claw
once you get Midwest and East, the moonshine is just prevalent. It's everywhere. Everybody's got a batch, and it's like, dude, why doesn't anybody on the West Coast make any of this shit?
I have the that makes moonshine. Like, I got moonshine in the fridge in my shop.
Do you? Dude, there's nobody in Vegas that makes moonshine. It's not a thing here.
There was some.
I got a guy that's like kind of part of like the little team Gately group that we have, and he's like Viking in base, and he makes fucking moonshine, and it'll fucking murder you.
Dude, there was
bring some apple pie for me, please.
I'm not toting a jar of moonshine to fucking Vegas.
Come on, man.
There was a guy that was making.
Never mind, it's just water in a fucking mason jar.
Dude, drink right. I'll send you a label.
No,
I'll send you a label.
So the guy, and he showed up late at Slam, and he was selling. He had moonshine, whatever it was. I don't know. That shit was the worst. Like, I don't know what it was made out of, but it
was gasoline. It was gasoline.
Dude, it sat on the shelf, and I noticed that there were ants in the shop, and I literally took that moonshine out there and I poured it in their ant colony, and they all died.
I was like,
drink whatever that gasoline
Aquanet fucking hairspray.
Dude, it was bad.
At Slam 2019, Friday afternoon, right after I got a demo from Drew and from Steve Duncan, I walked over and I was talking to John Rabby, and he's like, opens this jar of moonshine, and he's like, taste this, it's super good. And I like take a pretty big drink of it, and I'm like, wow, that is good. And I hand it back to him, and he like takes a big old gluck, and he's like, hands it to me. And at first I'm like, okay. And I get it. And he's like, take a big ass drink. And I'm like, and as much as I can, and I hand it back to him, and he like takes another big drink, and it's like half gone now, and he's like, we're gonna drink this, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna drink most of it. And I take like another couple of big drinks, I hold it for a moment, I take another drink, and I hand it back to him, and it's about a third of the way full, and he's like, clock, and it's gone. And I'm like,
see you tomorrow.
Wow. I was like, man, he murdered that thing. He drank at least 2/3 of that. Like, he might have had 3/4 of it. And I'm like, wow. And then John's like, all right, man, I'll see you tomorrow. And he gives me a pound. And I'm like, and I didn't know where anybody that I was there with, like, that I had arrived there with was.
You got about 15 minutes to find somebody.
I was standing there fucked up. I was like, oh my God, I'm hammered.
Yeah,
and I know it's only going to last like a half an hour, but like, I was like, oh my God, I'm super drunk. And then Dan Current comes pulling up in his Armada and he's like, Bobby Gale. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. I just drank a jar of moonshine with John Rabby. I mean, he had most of it, but I'm fucking so hammered. But it was pretty interesting.
Have you showed these guys your fuck video that Allison?
No, that's the secret.
Your fuck video, Allison. Wait a second. Okay,
yeah, of course.
It doesn't involve sex.
From that first year at Slam when I was doing all those demo videos, she edited out me saying fuck all the time, right? And she started putting them all together in one video. And it's minutes long. I'm like, oh my God, I sound like a
dude. There was a point where he was getting a demo from the CJ. He's getting a demo from CJ. He's like, my fucking eye about fucking fell out. Holy
no! It's just like my hat flew off into the box, and I went to like try to grab it, and I like turned and like stuck my face into the box, and it flipped my eyelid in CJ's truck, and I'm like, ow. Like it flipped my fucking eyelid back right there, and it was pretty nasty.
Nah, bro, I'm good.
That's pretty good.
That's too windy.
That was a little too windy. That shit hurt my eye. My eye was all red for like an hour. I was like, ow.
In the Kicker Club last week, Andy had posted a picture of the Solo X subs, and people were talking about, they're not coming out, whatever.
Yeah.
I commented, I said, Kicker's not even a real company, bro.
On here.
Yeah.
And did people get all mad at you?
They lost their fucking minds. Somebody went to their personal page and made a whole post dragging the fuck out of me. Saying so much like, why are you bashing Kicker? Fuck, you don't know anything about Kicker, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, God damn! So while I was at Kicker Saturday, I shot a video. I was like, guys, everyone said Kicker was real. So I came to see, and oh my God, it's really real, guys.
Yeah, for real, right?
With the Bronco right here. And then someone, I think I might have been Blake, commented. He's like, bro, don't let them trick you with a couple of cheap actors. He's like, next thing you know, you'll believe in birds are real.
Bro, dude, the amount of drama that your posts create,
it was clearly a joke. Like saying Kicker isn't a real company, it's just nonsensical. It's supposed to be funny.
Dude,
boy,
just
you'd have thought I slapped their mama.
Like they were mad about Greg's not being a daily driver. Like I talked to him about it. He was like, I didn't know if he was serious or not. I was like, I'm pretty sure he was joking. He's like, I actually had to ask Drew a day or two later, like, are you serious? Or are you just fucking around? And you're like, yeah, I was just trolling. He's like, okay, well, I'm trolling.
I mean, it's not a daily driver. He ain't drove it in 2 weeks. I've asked every day.
That's just because the turbo's been blown out.
I don't want to.
Now that the
convenient.
Well, if it doesn't run,
dude. Convenient.
Greg's daily driver on the planet. Period.
Last week, Drew was arguing with Jose Ramos about some SPL vehicles will gain when the windshield breaks.
Absolutely will. Yeah. Absolutely will.
Some will for sure.
See, can't confirm. Some will.
100%. I've seen.
See, just like if you put me and Andrew in the door of a vehicle and the door's open, the door's now closed. There is now more mass in that door opening than the door that was there. That door's closed.
Crazy.
Hey, you put me, Andrew, and John Robbie in a door. That door's closed.
Before we wrap this up, let's talk about Chris Lee and DeClue. And that whole fucking wild ass thing where
what happened? I missed the whole. I was so busy. I missed the whole thing.
Okay, so
did DeClue die?
What?
No.
Let's make this the closing story.
I saved him
because I got food. I got food to put in me, and I have somebody coming here that I need to.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap this shit up. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, tell the story, and then
no. Hold on. Let's see who's coming over.
Yeah,
let's have a chat.
You gotta have to do it on the live feed. You're gonna have to handle it.
But
don't worry about it.
What's his name?
He's gonna turn into an OnlyFans fucking site. Really,
one live.
All right, go ahead. Tell your story.
Like Boosie would say, $1,000. Show your pussy on live.
Yeah, no. But anyways, DeClue.
At the Wake the Dead show, Chris Lee was supposed to bolt DeClue in and give him everything the fucking Beat Dominator has for 5 minutes. And
I don't think the Beat Dominator could play for 5 minutes.
I think he could.
Anyways,
I got no idea. I have no idea what's in it. I'm just talking shit.
Yeah. It's like he's almost at a 180, sealed up. It's nasty. It's brutal. And Chris,
no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that, dude. Right? And I was like,
don't do that.
And I kind of jokingly immediately responded. I was like, he's gonna fucking die. And then a couple other people like responded. I'm like, God, I'm like reading it a little bit and like DeClue's like, oh, it's fine. I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, hey man, I don't think you guys should do. And I was like, we were discussing it a little bit. Donnie Babb jumped in and made like the best point. He was like, we'll never be able to insure one of these events again if somebody dies in one of these fucking trucks. And
you were talking about with Scopy. I remember that, dude. I was there. I was standing looking at Scopy, and I was like, I looked at him like, that shit. Are you really going to get? Yeah, literally, yeah. We were standing right there, dude. Jeremy
Scobie told me 2 weeks later that he was fucked up for like 3 days, and then like 6 months later, he was like, I was fucked up for 2 months. I was like, you had probably a pretty nasty concussion because he was drunk as fuck when he was climbing in that damn thing and getting bolted in Jeremy's truck. And I was like, don't do that shit. Don't do that. And he,
I remember.
No.
Yep.
So what happened? Cool. I didn't see it. And then, by the way, Bobby, you were talking about Jason. So the first time I met him, he types and it's like, fuck, you don't know, pick words out. He comes and talks to you. He's like, hey, my name is Jason. Really? Yeah, I'm Jason DeClue. And I sat there and I had a whole ass conversation with him. He talks just fine, but he has like dyslexia or something going on
like,
there.
So whatever it is, I get that, and I've heard it before, that in real world he's totally normal. But when he's
from what I've been told, he's actually like a machinist and runs like a very expensive machine at this big ass company. Like it's something that you have to be really smart to do. That's what he does.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yep. That's what I heard.
I'm pretty sure it's a straight.
So, anyways
I've also heard that he faked it all, the entire thing.
Yes.
You think he just fakes all his misspelling and all
that? That's what I've been told by people who live by him. That he's faking all of it.
It's been too much,
dude. When you talk to him in person, you don't understand how he can type like that. It makes no sense.
Because
the dude he talks perfectly normal, and he can talk to you about almost anything. But then he types like a fucking retard. It's got to be.
No, it has to be on purpose.
No offense.
No one has a phone that will allow that type of mistyping. The phones won't let you do it.
True.
Unless you turn it off.
That's true. But go ahead, Bobby. What are you saying about?
Anyways, he bolt him in. What happened?
No, they didn't bolt him in. They didn't bolt him in.
Oh,
but here's the reason why I wanted to bring it up. Right, I made a live feed like I think it was Friday morning, and I was like, "Hey guys, I don't really think you guys should do this shit because it isn't." We've talked about it before. Of anybody that's going to accidentally kill somebody with their fucking demo rig, it's going to be Chris.
Yeah, we've literally said that before.
When I saw a dude like he's like he plays that song, the fucking has the
Street Beat track. He plays Street Beat track. One of them.
He's rolling in on that shit and right after the bass note starts, and it's doing like a 160-ish. It's like pretty loud. And then Chris just raises and this dude's over the hump, and the kid dives head first out. It's in my Instagram feed from Slam this year. And dude, like fucking belly slides down the steps, face plants, hands face into the ground. He almost scorpions himself over, gets up, and he was like, oh my God. And I'm like, Chris, you're pretty fucking mean with that bass knob, bro. You should do that shit, man. I was like,
even to us, you tell him to take it easy, and he just still does.
Dude, Bruce's video.
Damn, Chris, this is sketchy, dude. That's a lot. I don't.
Dude, all it's gonna take is someone with like some type of heart issue or brain issue they don't know about.
Right.
Done.
An aneurysm. Have an aneurysm rupture in your brain, and
you hit someone with a 170 like that.
Yeah, it's not good.
Remember the video?
It's probably going to happen.
Like 99% sure that the cube broke a kidney stone free in me that I pissed out 2 days later. But the moment that thing cut free, I made some involuntary motions with my body that scared everybody. And that thing was with its door open, and I was, and it was like 53 hertz.
So
pain.
The same year that
Chris, there's a difference between a mid 60 stock cabin and a mid 70 extreme cabin. I mean, like Steve, if you get in like vehicle like Steven's truck that does a 67, and then you get an extreme build that does the 67, that extreme build is going to hurt you far more.
That like when Chris Lee before he had the center hump in, that was same year as Steve, your video when you're like, Bruce got one, and like and he just like gives it a little bit, and Bruce is like, he's all mad at him. He's like, "Don't! I told you not to do that. Don't do that." And he just fucking hammers on it. I like that thing better when it had just the floor.
Yeah, because you get
out. Drew, what you were saying, like an extreme build. So I'm gonna make a decal that's gonna go on my dash that says the only thing welded in this car or not welded in this car is you.
Yeah.
So you better fucking basically be ready because you're the only thing in here that ain't fucking secure. You're gonna get the business.
Like,
so be ready.
You guys ever seen the videos where they put a watermelon in a fucking 180 vehicle?
Nathan
just explodes.
It doesn't even, there's not even chunks of it. It's like
it just like vaporizes. Imagine cleaning that fucking thing up, dude.
That would suck.
I'm never bolting anybody into a car.
So me and Brandy stayed with the Munsons in their penthouse. Might have been 2019 CES, 2020 for like a night because we got there early.
Was that when he rented the Lamborghini?
Yep, that was that year. So we stayed there with a night in the penthouse with him, and that night I asked Nathan, I was like, "Hey, like, explain in smart terms why." I mean, I kind of had an idea, but. So, in the average, so an extreme build, you were the only thing absorbing energy. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, you're only absorbing 1 to 2% of the energy, and that is causing that much pain. So the more focused it gets, like if you're in the corner of a vehicle, you're absorbing 2.5%, 3%. It's exponential how much more energy it is on your body because you're the only soft thing left. And so that led me to thinking, if you bolt the door shut, there's not even a place for the energy to escape to. All this left is air compression.
Fucking nugget, man.
All this left is air compression, which air compresses pretty easily, but not that great. And you absorb the energy. That's it. That's all that's left.
So
imagine
that year
that just the
I rented
concussions, like the 40 hertz.
You could probably get pressure
40
sickness
concussions
like a diver. Right?
Yeah, it probably is similar to that. Yep.
Drew, that year when they rented the Lamborghini, I rented a Ferrari and I walked in the door and Nate and Chris were there and I was like, small place. Who would have thought we're at the luxury car rental place and run into each other? And it was a good time. That was the first year that
bro. That was the first year that I realized that someone was going to die getting a demo because Dan climbed over Carlos's hump in his van to get a demo, and I'm like, if this is the demo people are going to start giving, someone's going to die.
And that's when it was doing 72s.
Now,
now you'll pretty much just die.
Now he's doing a 181.
He did a 182 with like one sub, didn't he?
84.
182.
84. I think it's 84.3 is what he did at USAC final.
No, with one sub like last week.
Oh yeah, 181 with one sub.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
so people keep talking about like how loud one sub can be. That a lot of people forget that Nathan was the first person to do a 170 with a single 10.
Fuck.
Yeah, there seems to be some really loud numbers with very few subs, and that just. I guess I don't know what the fuck it comes down to. Phase, yeah. I don't know. It's pretty gnarly.
It's much easier. Like if you look at like Derek's Project SPL, it was 4 subs whenever Chris and all them showed up over there. Now it's 2 subs and louder than ever.
It's pretty crazy.
Alignment.
Yeah.
Weird.
All right, boys. Well, I think we had a great show. Talked about all kinds of cool stuff, and I'll see all you guys in a week or so. And drive safe, Andrew. Don't don't take anything when you don't need to. And
so you're not going to fly out on Wednesday, Drew? Like, you should get there on Wednesday so we can do the show there together on Wednesday.
I'm getting there like Thursday morning, like 8 a.m., 7 a.m. So
that's another thing. Yeah. Speaking of the show, so next Wednesday, me and Bobby will be knees deep, and Andrew, we're going to be deep into SEMA. Depending on what time SEMA's over, we're either going to try to maybe do something earlier to give you guys a little experience of what we're doing at SEMA, and then maybe bleed over, or we may not have a show. I'm not 100%.
We're gonna have a show.
I know I have a shit ton of stuff to do, but
I got it.
We'll do something. And,
we can have an SQ show. I got this. We can have an SQ show. We'll get Dan Merritt on. A bunch of OGs will know who Dan Merritt is. We'll get Dan Merritt on. We'll get
I think
my mama on.
I think if we do much of anything, we should be like, here we are at SEMA.
We got my mama on.
I think we do it. We do an early show. We maybe do like a 4. I think SEMA's like 4 or 5-ish cutoff. So if we come on a little earlier and maybe give you guys an idea.
Killer demos. Like, we could be doing fucking demo videos and shit live from SEMA.
There you go. That'd be sweet.
I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yep. Cool.
Maybe we hop in and real quick, and I'll just do the show. We'll just do the show on our phones.
Ron, for Friday, just go to whenever you get into Vegas. Just go to the Down for Sound warehouse, and I'll be there.
Yeah,
that's where we're going to.
All right, boys.
All right, guys. Have a great night.
And
thanks everybody for watching.
Soon. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for coming on, Andrew. Thanks, buddy.
You bet.
Later.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. See you, boys.